Chapter 791. I've already told you that your spacetime Tao is too weak. Watch as I break this cage breaker, Chu Kuangren said. Then, he gently raised his hand. A palm-sized disc appeared in his palm. The disc was engraved with countless mysterious Daoist patterns. What? What is that? The god of space's pupils dilated. He sensed a never-before-seen spacetime energy from the disc. He was the over-god of space, the god who controlled the spacetime of this world. But at this moment, he felt that the spacetime energy he controlled was like a small stream facing a boundless ocean in front of the disc. The gap was so huge that it was unbelievable. It was some kind of spacetime treasure. However, how could such a spacetime treasure exist in this world? That was impossible. At that moment, Chu Kuangren made his move in the spacetime cage. He shouted indifferently, "Time and space mirror, open." The temporal mirror spun, and the 9 rings on it spread out, one on top of the other, forming a three-dimensional device that looked like a globe. A boundless and terrifying spacetime force spread out from the spacetime mirror, crazily attacking the 8 white light pillars around it. With a loud bang, the pillar of light exploded in response. The spacetime cage was broken. The god of space suffered a backlash when the divine weapon was broken. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood as he looked at the temporal mirror in Chu Kuangren's hand in disbelief. What is this thing? Chu Kuangren kept the temporal mirror after breaking the spacetime cage. It was a powerful item, but it consumed a lot of energy. He could not use it for a long time with his current strength. In fact, he could only use it in the past few years after he understood the mysteries of the first 4 rings on the temporal mirror. Just now, the god of space's seal of time had indeed been effective against him. It had frozen his time, but in the next instant, it had triggered a reaction from the spacetime mirror, which had easily shattered the spacetime power. That was why Chu Kuangren could use his mind power to block the divine power attack. The temporal mirror was a supreme deity-grade treasure. Chu Kuangren suspected that it was even more terrifying than an immortal weapon. Playing with the spacetime Tao in front of it was a joke. Now it's my turn. Chu Kuangren took advantage of the moment when the spacetime cage was broken to appear in front of the god of space. The god of space was shocked and immediately activated his divine power. Time restriction. He used his time divine art again. Time halt. However, at the same time, Chu Kuangren had also used his temporal ability. When the 2 forces of time collided, ripples appeared in the surrounding void. It was as if a freeze button had been pressed around Chu Kuangren and the temporal over-god, and everything stopped moving in an instant. But in the next instant, Chu Kuangren's mind power surged out and transformed into a giant golden sword that slashed across the spacetime master god's neck. Blood splattered everywhere as the god of space's head fell to the ground. Chu Kuangren's time ability had gained the upper hand. The faces of the surrounding sovereigns changed dramatically. The god of space was dead? Chu Kuangren glanced at his opponent's corpse and then turned to the other over-gods. Alright, it's your turn now. But at this moment, behind him, the god of space's corpse glowed with white light. Countless Tao patterns flowed around it, and the blood flowing on the ground flowed back into the god of space's body, reattaching its head. It was as if the entire process of the god of space's death had been replayed in reverse, and he was resurrected. That was one of the god of space's divine abilities, time reversal. It was a powerful divine ability. However, it consumed a terrifying amount of divine power as well. He had only used it once, but the divine power that he had expended to deal with Chu Kuangren was now completely depleted. Seeing that Chu Kuangren's back was facing him, the god of space immediately took out a silver-white spear and stabbed it at him. He no longer cared about his dignity as a deity. As long as he could kill Chu Kuangren, he would not mind losing his dignity. The silver-white spear pierced through the air. Although it wasn't imbued with any divine power, the strength of the God of Space's divine body and the indestructible nature of the divine spear in his hand was something that even an overgod wouldn't be able to withstand if they were caught off guard. The spear pierced through Chu Kuangren's back and came out from the God of Space's chest. The God of Space was shocked. That's a spatial technique. You have spatial techniques like that? Chu Kuangren turned around and glanced at him. I told you that your spacetime Dao is too weak. You can't even detect such a simple spatial technique, let alone ambushing me. What a fool. The God of Space's face turned green from being mocked before his death. However, he still had one last question. How did you know I'm not dead? Chu Kuangren had already chopped off his head. To others, he was already dead. Who would be wary of a dead person? Do I need to tell you? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. He then used his mind power to destroy the God of Space's head. The God of Space did not know that the omniscient spirit's analysis had revealed all of his divine abilities to Chu Kuangren. Of course, that included the time reversal technique. After Chu Kuangren killed the God of Space, he had already set up a spatial portal behind him to guard against him. The God of Space's divine weapon had only pierced the spatial portal, which was connected to the God of Space's back. He had only reaped what he sowed with that spear attack. The mighty spacetime overgod had died to his most prized spacetime technique. It was truly an ironic thing to say. Shao AI, analyze this and see if he's completely dead. Chu Kuangren said to the omniscient spirit. Spacetime techniques were extremely tricky. Although Chu Kuangren was well versed in them, his opponent was still the God of Space. The God of Space's aura is completely gone. Upon receiving Shao AI's response, Chu Kuangren nodded and summoned a ball of golden red flames that landed on the spatial master deity's corpse. Once the spatial master deity's body was reduced to ashes, all that was left was a silvery white rhombus crystal. The spacetime godhead. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up as he kept the godhead that he had been eyeing for a long time. The rest of the overgods could not help but feel shaken when they saw that the God of Space, the strongest among them, was dead. They looked at Chu Kuangren with unprecedented fear in their eyes. I think I heard that one of you suggested killing half of the humans first. Chu Kuangren glared at the overgods. With a lift of his arm, spiritual chi gathered and turned into thousands of weapons that shrouded the entire godly mountain. Tsang, call a truce. I suggest a truce. From now on, the celestial tribe and the humans shall never cross paths again. We shall stop this snow disaster. One of the overgods said anxiously. However, when Chu Kuangren heard that, he gently lowered his palm, and countless spiritual weapons rained down from the sky, bombarding every corner of the godly mountain. One by one, the deities fell under this attack. A truce? Sure, but let me kill half of the deities first, Chu Kuangren said. With a lift of his arm, a new round of spiritual weapons was formed. Chapter 792. The spiritual chi converged into a sharp weapon. Tens of thousands of spiritual weapons enveloped the entire godly mountain like a torrential downpour. Boom, 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 the entire divine mountain trembled violently, and the gods fell one after another under this power. Their divine blood dyed a large area of the ground. The sovereigns all had incomparably ugly looks on their faces. They wanted to stop Chu Kuangren, but they were powerless to do so. Soon, half of the deities on the godly mountain had been slaughtered by Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, stop this right now. The divine overgod could not stand it any longer. He roared and charged towards Chu Kuangren as he watched his subordinates being slaughtered one after another. Holy judgment! He unleashed a punch, and a large number of Daoist patterns gathered on it, forming a dazzling white light pillar. Useless attack. Chu Kuangren pointed his finger, and his mind power turned into a golden red fire lotus that shot out, shattering the light pillar and killing the divine overgod. How powerful was he now? The divine soul and earthly soul had double the soul power. The power of his mind power was no less than that of a peak minor Daoist master. Coupled with the power of the heavenly Tao, it had a terrifying suppressive effect on the deities. To the deities, Chu Kuangren's combat strength was no weaker than a great Daoist master's. Not to mention the ultimate technique of rising thoughts. Tsang, I'll kill you. The darkness over God could not stand it anymore. With a roar, he gathered his boundless darkness divine power and formed a pitch-black crescent-shaped saber ray. The saber ray contained a terrifying power that seemed to devour everything. Chu Kuangren stood his ground. With a single thought, chilling qi gathered. It was so powerful that it almost froze the entire godly mountain. Everything withered, and the void froze. The saber ray shattered into countless ice shards, and the chilling qi engulfed the darkness over God like a hot knife through butter, freezing half of his divine body. In the void, the spiritual weapons gathered and descended. Boom! The darkness over God was shattered into countless pieces. Another over God had fallen. The faces of the sovereigns were already rather ashen. Could it be that the godly mountain was going to be destroyed by a single human? No, that was impossible. The over-gods trembled in disbelief. Just as Chu Kuangren was massacring the deities, a surge of divine power that was far more powerful than the average Lord God suddenly erupted from the godly mountain. The entire godly mountain trembled because of this surge of divine power. It was as if a forbidden existence was awakening. Chu Kuangren had also sensed this aura. He narrowed his eyes. Oh, this power. He actually felt a trace of threat. As for the other sovereigns, looks of wild joy appeared on their faces. It's the Divine Master. The Divine Master has awakened. Ha, this is great, this is great. How many years has it been? I've waited for this day for so many years. The Divine Master has finally awakened. Tsang, this place will not tolerate your arrogance. All the sovereigns looked towards the centermost shrine, incomparably excited. The runes around the Temple of Glory dissipated one by one, and the massive divine power aura grew stronger and stronger. Dong, dong, a series of footsteps that sounded as if they were stepping on everyone's hearts rang out. Inside the Temple of Glory, a black-robed, silver-haired man slowly walked out. His deep, obsidian-like eyes swept across the surroundings, and anyone who was stared at, including the over-gods, could not help but shudder from the depths of their hearts. That man was the Divine Master. The Divine Master, Huang. His gaze swept across the godly mountain and finally landed on Chu Kuangren with a hint of surprise in his eyes. A human. I can't believe that the powerhouse who caused the godly mountain to tremble is a lowly human. The Divine Master was very surprised. He was originally in a deep slumber to recover from the injuries inflicted by the Immortals a long time ago. However, before he could fully recover from his injuries, he sensed the godly mountain trembling and sensed that an enemy so powerful that even the over-gods could not handle was approaching. That was why he interrupted his slumber and woke up. However, what surprised him was that the powerhouse who caused the entire godly mountain to tremble was only a human. To him, it was a little unbelievable that such a powerhouse could be born from such a lowly and weak race. I've been in a deep slumber for so long. Have you all sunk so low? The Divine Master looked at the over-gods and said indifferently. The sovereigns instantly fell rather silent. They felt ashamed. As a over-god, they had allowed a human to bully them. It was a huge blow to the dignity that the celestial tribe had accumulated for hundreds of thousands of years. Forget it. Let me deal with this person first, then we'll talk about this, the Divine Master said indifferently as he looked at Chu Kuangren. He gently lifted his arm, and a majestic black divine power suddenly erupted and swept towards Chu Kuangren. Furthermore, this divine power carried an aura of destruction. Finally, an opponent that can force me to use my full strength has appeared in the celestial tribe. Chu Kuangren chuckled. His mind power surged, and thousands of spiritual soldiers surged out like a flood. The two energies collided, and the godly mountain shook a few times. This strength is indeed shocking even to the gods. The Divine Master glanced at Chu Kuangren. With a lift of his arm, an even more terrifying divine power surged out. Even Chu Kuangren felt troubled by that attack. After he unleashed his mind power, he was pushed back a few hundred meters by his opponent's divine power. If he had not cast a layer of mind power barrier on the surface of his body, that attack would have killed him on the spot. At that thought, Chu Kuangren looked at the Divine Master and smirked. He said, "Is this the power of a Divine Master? It's very powerful indeed." The Divine Master did not say a word. Instead, he unleashed another punch. A majestic divine power erupted. Chu Kuangren lifted his arm, and a huge golden seal appeared. It was the human ruler's seal. When the seal was thrown out, the destructive divine power was shattered by the seal. The man-ruler seal was like a hot knife through butter as it headed for the Master God. The vast might made the Master God's face change slightly. With a growl, the Divine Master punched the divine seal. Deity's destruction of the universe. After a loud explosion, the ground around them exploded. The human ruler's seal was sent flying. Meanwhile, the Divine Master was also sent flying by the seal. His right fist trembled slightly as his knuckles cracked and blood gushed out. A cold glint flashed across his eyes. He had actually been injured. He had been injured by a human. Chu Kuangren controlled the human ruler's seal to float above his head and said, "This is my first time using this against an enemy, so I'm not familiar with it yet. I hope the Divine Master will forgive me if its power is too weak." The over-gods around them gulped. The Divine Master was forced back by a single seal. After so many years, aside from that immortal who suddenly came to Firmament Star, this was the first time they had seen the Divine Master being forced back. Its power is indeed a little weak. The Divine Master snorted. He continued to attack. Chu Kuangren did not back down either. The human ruler's seal unleashed a terrifying power in his hands, forcing the Divine Master to retreat. The battle lasted for an entire day and night. The over-gods around them did not have any chance to intervene. As the Divine Master was forced back by the human ruler's seal again, the injuries that he had suppressed were showing signs of relapse. How long can you suppress it?" Chu Kuangren looked at the Divine Master and smiled. "How much of your mind power do you have left then?" The Divine Master retorted. Both of them knew that the other had a limit. Chapter 793. Inside the Godly Mountain. Chu Kuangren and the awakened Lord God were engaged in a battle, but they were evenly matched. For the time being, neither of them could do anything to the other. "Human, you're very strong. I can give you a chance to join us and become a deity. What do you think?" The Lord God suddenly said. The other lords' expressions changed when they heard that. Was the Lord God planning to recruit Sang? Since he could not defeat him, he would find a way to recruit him. What a way to do that! However, whenever they thought of how Chu Kuangren had humiliated them and how he had killed so many of their over-gods, they could not help but feel a ball of fire burning in their hearts. F***ck. Could it be that he would have to stand in the same camp as this guy in the future and see him all the time? Moreover, with his strength, he would definitely be second only to the Lord God once he joined the deity camp. Would that not mean that their positions would always be suppressed by him? The more they thought about it, the more upset they felt. "Join you guys? Have you lost your mind from sleeping?" Chu Kuangren sneered. The Lord God's expression darkened. "I've given you a chance, but you don't want it. You guys are the ones who asked me to throw you away. State your terms." The Lord God took a deep breath to suppress the anger in his heart. If they continued fighting, not only would his internal injuries not recover, but they might even worsen. That was something he did not want to see. since you want to sit down and negotiate, I'll give you guys a chance. I only have one condition. For the next 100,000 years, the deities must not interfere with the development of the human race, Chu Kuangren said. 100,000 years is too long. 100,000 years is very short compared to your lifespan. What if I don't agree? You must understand that we sovereigns are undying. In this aspect, you have no advantage at all. Chu Kuangren chuckled. If the lords are immortal, then the other deities. Believe me, if I give up my life, I have a way to make all the deities except for the lords vanish. And you lords will fall into a deep slumber. When that time comes, your godheads will be taken by the other humans. They will refine your godheads, and a new batch of deities will be born. So what if you guys are revived? The deities' expressions changed when they heard Chu Kuangren's words. If that was really the case, then the newly born gods would definitely stand on the side of the human race. After the resurrection of the main gods, they would no longer have any advantage. In fact, the new godly general was now above them. I agree to your conditions. The God Lord lightly said. Then I hope you can keep your promise. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Zhong Yu didn't ask him to make any heavenly Tao oath because to these innate gods, the heavenly Tao oath had almost no binding power. He turned around and stepped into the void, disappearing on the spot. After he left, the Master God's face was extremely gloomy. He punched the void and the divine power with a destructive aura destroyed a large piece of the void. Azure. This debt, the divine race will not let it go just like that. The God Lord coldly said. At the side, the other Master Gods fell silent for a good while. To be forced into such a state by a single human was something that they would never have dared to imagine in the past. But now, it had really happened. Lord God, what should we do from now on? I will continue my seclusion to recover. Once my injuries are healed, I will personally kill Tsang. The human race will also continue to be under our control. While I am in seclusion, the God race will temporarily stop all activities. The Master God said. The other Master Gods nodded slightly. That's the only way. In the Jianghu tribe, a dozen heavenly honorables were gathered together. Our king is too reckless for him to go to the godly mountain alone. You should know that this is the God race's territory. What if something happens to our king? How will the human race develop in the future? That's right. Our king carries the future of the entire human race on his back. These heavenly honorables were the strong cultivators of the God-defying pavilion. They were also the most powerful cultivators of the human race. At this moment, they had already regarded Chu Kuangren as their king and the future of the human race. If something were to happen to him, it would be a huge blow to the human race. If the human race's future can only be carried by me alone, then the human race will be in deep sorrow. An indifferent voice was heard. Chu Kuangren walked out of the void. The crowd was overjoyed to see him. Are you all right, king? Chu Kuangren waved his hand and said, I'm fine. Then, he put on a serious expression and said, the human race's future is everyone's business. It's not something that can be decided by one person. No matter how strong I am, I'm just one person. I can't take care of everyone. Everyone's faces were filled with shame. Our king is right. We understand. We were foolish. By the way, king, how did your trip to the godly mountain go? Yanwu asked as he carefully looked at Chu Kuangren. His eyes were filled with worry, afraid that he might be injured. Yes, it went well. There was just a small accident. What accident? The Master God has awakened. The crowd's expression changed. The Lord of the Gods. He's awake. Master God, wasn't he injured by an immortal a long time ago and fell into a deep slumber? How did he wake up so quickly? Are you hurt, king? Chu Kuangren waved his hand to silence the crowd. Then, he told them everything that happened on the godly mountain. The crowd's eyes lit up when they heard that Chu Kuangren had bought 100,000 years for the human race. The human race had made great progress in just a few years. If the human race had another 100,000 years, it was unimaginable how far they could go. By then, they would definitely be able to suppress the celestial tribe. Although we have 100,000 years, no one knows if the celestial tribe will keep their promise. Don't let your guard down. Chu Kuangren gave them a few pointers. After that, he walked out the door and looked at the snow. This snow will stop soon. Yinwu, I'll leave the rest to you. Yes. Seeing Chu Kuangren standing in the snow, Qingyi looked around the room and asked, King, where's your cloak? Chu Kuangren looked apologetic and took out the broken cloak. Qingyi, I'm sorry. I accidentally damaged this cloak during the battle on the godly mountain. It's a shame that I've wasted your good intentions. The rest of the heavenly honorables' mouths twitched. This trip to the godly mountain, killing deities, battling the master gods, and even the master gods, only a cloak was damaged? What kind of level had the king reached? The crowd was secretly shocked. Qingyi looked at the cloak and smiled helplessly. King, it's our greatest consolation that you're fine. It's just a cloak. I'll just make another one. There's no need to feel sorry. To him, the king was too gentle at times. But this point made people follow him even more wholeheartedly. I'll be troubling you then. Chu Kuangren smiled. After talking to the crowd for a while, he returned to his room and took out the loot from the godly mountain. They were all godheads. The most important ones were the godheads of the light, darkness, and space-time master gods. Extremely powerful energies flowed on them. Looking at these godheads, Chu Kuangren was deep in thought. Chapter 794. If these godhoods can be refined by humans, it can indeed increase the number of strong cultivators in the human tribe. However, the divinity within the godhoods might have a negative impact on the human's mind. Chu Kuangren played with the godhoods in his hand and muttered. If a human were to refine a godhead, they would indeed be able to become a new god. However, their strength would also be fixed there. Over time, these new deities would seek to improve under the influence of the divinity, and they would walk the same path as the other deities. It was also the reason why Chu Kuangren had not allowed anyone to refine these godheads for so many years. After all, humans and deities were two different existences. I'll keep these godhoods for now. Should I go back now? Chu Kuangren took out the temporal master god's godhood. As long as he had the temporal master god's godhood, he could use the temporal mirror to open up the river of time and return to the future. It's time to make some preparations for my return. Chu Kuangren murmured. Once he left, the deities would definitely come out to wreak havoc again. If that happened, the human tribe's development over the past few years would all be for naught. Before he left, he had to make some preparations. After the battle at the godly mountain, the deities were completely silent. Very few deities were roaming the world. Under Chu Kuangren's leadership, the human tribe flourished. Time passed, and another 2 years had passed. On this day, Chu Kuangren stood on the peak of a mountain, surrounded by layers of enchanted boundaries. Even the over-gods could not spy on this place. It won't be long before this city is built. This will be the human tribe's first city. Chu Kuangren looked at the human city that was being built at the foot of the mountain with a hint of relief in his eyes. In recent years, under Chu Kuangren's leadership, the human tribe had entered the era of city-states. Everywhere was undergoing large-scale construction and cities were being built. Once these cities were built, the human tribe's development would enter a new stage, and the human tribe would establish its first nation. It's time for me to leave. Chu Kuangren murmured. He took a deep breath, and 3 rays of light flew out from his head, forming into 3 souls that sat on top of the lotus throne. No matter what, we've stayed here for quite a few years. I'm quite reluctant to leave just like that, Chu Kuangren's heavenly soul said. Beside him, the fourth transformation human soul, who had cultivated for 2 years, looked at the heavenly soul and calmly said, "We will look after him for you." "Heh, then I'll have to trouble you too." Tianhun smiled. Chu Kuangren had decided to return to the future. However, before he left, he cultivated the human soul and planned to leave the earth soul and human soul in this era. As the leading heavenly soul, he returned to the future. If possible, we will meet again in the future. It's probably a little difficult. According to historical records, the Azure Emperor fought with the Divine Master in the immemorial Kunlun Abyss and perished together. Tianhun said thoughtfully. The Earth Soul and Mortal Soul naturally knew about this as well. The future is unpredictable. Perhaps when you return to the future, you will see a different future under our guidance. Don't do anything rash. If there are too many changes in the future, there is no guarantee that nothing will go wrong, Tianhun said with a frown. In the future, he had too many things he cared about. He didn't want anything to happen to him. We understand. The Earth Soul and Human Soul were both Chu Kuangren's. They knew his concerns. Alright, I'll take my leave then. Chu Kuangren took out the temporal mirror and the God of Space's Godhead. The three souls unleashed their mind powers at the same time. The God of Space's Godhead unleashed an immense amount of space-time energy that flowed into the temporal mirror under the control of his mind power. Boom, a powerful shockwave erupted in the void. Almost half of the enchanted boundary that Chu Kuangren had set up around the area was destroyed. A golden vortex appeared. The whirlpool seemed to reflect a long river that flowed endlessly from the past to the present. The river contained the changes of all things in the world. Goodbye, both of you. Chu Kuangren's heavenly soul smiled. Then, his figure flashed and leaped into the golden vortex. Not long after, the temporal mirror and the golden vortex disappeared. The Earth Soul and Human Soul looked at each other with sadness in their eyes. Alright, from now on, we are Tsang. The Earth Soul and Human Soul duo said as they looked at the city that was being built at the foot of the mountain. They could not return to the future anymore. They had to stay here and lead the development of the human tribe. From now on, they could only live as Tsang. Time can wash away everything. I'll leave the future to the heavenly soul. Alright. The Earth Soul and Human Soul duo returned to their physical bodies. Tsang lifted his arm and unleashed his mind power, shattering the enchanted boundary. Not far away. Green Shirt walked over. Looking at Tsang, Green Shirt was confused. He felt that his king was different, but he could not tell what was different. King, Yinwu, and the others are waiting for you to return for a meeting. Alright, I understand. Tsang nodded. In the river of time. As Chu Kuangren walked, his emperor's thought spread out in all directions, searching for the time point before he transmigrated. However, the river of time was too vast. Although Chu Kuangren's emperor's thought was powerful, it was not an easy task to find the time point. However, he saw the development of the human tribe after he left. The Earth Soul and Human Soul duo, which was Tsang, led the human tribe's development after Chu Kuangren left. The number of cultivators gradually increased. The number of strong cultivators in the God-defying pavilion continued to rise. In fact, the first Dao Lord had appeared. As expected of me. Not bad at all. Chu Kuangren said. However, 10,000 years later, the deities broke the 100,000-year promise and started a war with the human tribe. Meanwhile, Tsang and the Lord Deity had a duel. Both sides fought at the ancient Kunlun Abyss and both fell. However, before Tsang fell, he used the human emperor's seal to seal the entire godly mountain into the void. Even if the Lord Deity could be resurrected, he could not leave the godly mountain. However, there were still the Lord Deities among the deities. the human tribe fell into despair. At that time, the hidden power of the human tribe, the God-defying pavilion, appeared before everyone's eyes. The battle of the God-defying pavilion had begun. The deities did not expect that under Tsang's leadership, the human tribe could develop so many strong cultivators in just 10,000 years. The deities were either killed or sealed, until there was no longer any sign of the deities. The human tribe has won. Chu Kuangren could not help but feel emotional as he witnessed the entire battle of the God-defying pavilion. In the past, he had only read about the battle of the God-defying pavilion in ancient books. However, this time, he witnessed it with his own eyes. This feeling was completely different. It seems that the course of history hasn't changed much. After the battle of the God-defying pavilion, it was the Blood Tribe's invasion. Earth Spirit, Human Spirit has completed his mission and led the human race to develop. Leave the future to me. Chu Kuangren said. His emperor's thought surged as he searched for the time point before he transmigrated. In the process, he saw the human tribe's future development. From ancient times, to modern times, nations changed and orthodoxies continued. However, following the Blood Tribe's invasion, the heavenly Tao was damaged, and the firmament star entered an era of Dharma decline. Even emperors rarely appeared. Chapter 795. I haven't found it yet. How long will it take to keep searching like this? Chu Kuangren could not help but frown in the river of time. Xiao AI, do you have any ideas? Chu Kuangren asked. Master, can you try to sense the power of faith? The power of faith? Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. Yes, the power of faith exists for you, Master. It has a connection with you, and through sensing the power of faith, it can lock onto the time node of your era, Xiao AI said. Yeah, why didn't you say so earlier? Master, you didn't ask before. Is it my fault? Chu Kuangren stared. The all-knowing spirit, Xiao AI, was speechless. Why aren't you answering me? Master, you're so annoying. Sai, how dare you talk back to me? I'm going to drag you out and give you a good beating. Chu Kuangren curled his lips and said. The all-knowing spirit is connected to your soul. There is no such thing in the known universe that can strip the all-knowing spirit. Xiao AI's voice was filled with a hint of pride. Yes, you're amazing. Chu Kuangren did not dwell on that. He calmed down and began to sense the power of faith that belonged to him in the river of time. Time passed. Chu Kuangren suddenly felt a familiar wave of energy. It was the power of faith. It was as if he could hear countless people calling out to him. True God, Black God, I hope you can bless our village with good weather this year and a good harvest next year. True God, Black God, my wife is pregnant. I hope you can bless both of them to be safe. True God, Black God, I'm going to take the exams next year. I hope you can bless me to pass. I'll come back to fulfill my wish. Countless prayers echoed in his ears. Some were intermittent and sounded very vague, while others were much clearer. It seemed like the level of devotion was different. Found it. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. He flew towards a certain time node. Soon, he arrived in the river of time, in front of a wave made up of countless light spots. He locked onto a light spot and flew towards it. With a whoosh, he disappeared into that light spot. In the vast universe, a golden vortex appeared. Then, a figure sitting on a lotus throne appeared. It was Chu Kuangren. In the universe, chaotic and mixed spiritual energy swept over. Chu Kuangren circulated his mind power and isolated himself from the outside world. Then, he carefully sensed the location of his physical body. His physical body was immortal. Although it had been disintegrated into countless particles during the battle on Blood God Mountain, it should have recovered by now. In that direction? Chu Kuangren aimed at a direction and flew towards it. Purple Gold Galaxy, Shell Planet. The Bay Planet was also a cultivator civilization, but it was inconspicuous in the Purple Gold Galaxy. It was one level lower than the Firmament Star. The strongest on Shell Star were ordinary emperors. Just today. In the dark night of Beijing, a stream of light suddenly flew over. "Mom, look, there's a shooting star." On the street, a little girl pointed at the sky and said excitedly. At the side, a gentle woman smiled faintly. She looked at the flowing light that flashed by, and a wisp of worry appeared in her eyes. A ray of light descending from the sky. Furthermore, this ray of light seems to contain a strange fluctuation. Could it be some sort of otherworldly object? Although Beijing's cultivator civilization was not developed, they still had a certain understanding of otherworldly civilizations. There were countless civilizations in the vast universe, and among them, there were some powerful civilizations that lived by plundering. Once Beijing was targeted, it would be a calamity that would destroy the world. Except for the gentle woman. The other cultivators on Beijing also noticed the arrival of the ray of light. They looked into the distance and could not help but have a glimmer in their eyes. This is the second time, right? In the past 3 years, Beijing has had 2 otherworldly objects come to this planet. What does this sign mean? Could it be that an otherworldly civilization really has its eyes on Beijing? Perhaps it's some kind of otherworldly treasure. Send someone to check it out. Besides, there should be news about the otherworldly object from Profound Water sect. The ray of light from outer space attracted the attention of all the cultivators on Beijing. That ray of light flew across the sky and arrived at a mountain peak. When the ray of light dissipated, it turned into a white-robed man who was sitting on a lotus platform. His handsome appearance made him look like an otherworldly deity. The person who came was Chu Kuangren. After his arrival, a powerful suppressive force shrouded him. Chu Kuangren knew that it was the Beijing's heavenly Tao. "Heh, am I not welcome here?" Chu Kuangren chuckled. He gently raised his hand and a mysterious Daoist pattern intertwined in his palm. That was the heavenly Tao's power. The 2 heavenly Taos collided. Following that, Beijing's heavenly Tao's power receded like the tide. Beijing no longer had any suppression on Chu Kuangren. The Firmament Star's heavenly Tao is above the Beijing's heavenly Tao. Chu Kuangren was not surprised by this result. The planets in the universe were divided into 9 grades. Only planets that could give birth to civilizations could be called life-sustaining planets and could give birth to the heavenly Tao. The life-sustaining planets were divided into low-grade, mid-grade, high-grade, and immortal grade. Before coming to Beijing, he had used the spirit of omniscience to analyze this life-sustaining planet. It was only a grade 4 planet, a mid-grade life-sustaining planet. The Firmament Star was a grade 7 planet, a high-grade life-sustaining planet. Compared to Beijing, it was 2 grades higher. Chu Kuangren possessed the Firmament Star's heavenly Tao's power. Naturally, the Beijing's heavenly Tao would not dare to act recklessly in the face of a higher-grade heavenly Tao. Based on my senses, my physical body landed on this Beijing. I'll have to search for the exact location. Chu Kuangren's emperor's thought surged and covered the entire Beijing. His emperor's thought was so strong that no cultivation civilization on Beijing could isolate it. The entire Beijing had nowhere to hide from his senses. Soon, he found the location of his physical body. However, he could not help but frown. What are these people trying to do to my body? Beijing, Profound Water sect. As one of the 3 rarest emperor-level orthodoxies on Beijing, the Profound Water sect had tens of thousands of disciples, and all of them were elite cultivators. On Beijing, the Profound Water sect was the holy land for hundreds of millions of cultivators. However, 3 years ago, the news of the Profound Water sect obtaining an extraterrestrial item spread like wildfire. When the other 2 emperor-level orthodoxies heard about it, they joined forces to pressure the Profound Water sect to hand over the extraterrestrial item. However, the Profound Water sect would not hand it over so easily. After the war, all three parties suffered losses, and hundreds of sage cultivators died. In the end, the leaders of the three parties sat down for a peace talk. After a series of intense negotiations, they decided to study the extraterrestrial item together. Today was the day that the Profound Water sect would take out the extraterrestrial item for the other two emperor-level orthodoxies to study. Everyone in the Profound Water sect's plaza was looking forward to it. Profound Water sect master, it's time to keep your promise and hand over the extraterrestrial item. A red-haired burly man said. This person was the emperor of Beijing's other emperor-level orthodoxy, the Divine Kingdom of Flame. Don't worry, I won't go back on my word. The Profound Water sect's sect master was a gentle-looking lady. After she finished speaking, a group of people carried a crystal coffin over from afar. A person was lying in that crystal coffin. Chapter 796. A crystal coffin was carried into the square of the abstruse water gate. A person was lying in the coffin. Everyone was stunned when they saw that person. They swore that this person was the most perfect person they had ever seen. His eyebrows were like swords, his nose was tall, his facial features were exquisite, and his skin was as white as jade. The person lay quietly in the crystal coffin like the most perfect creation of the heavens. Many of the female cultivators present were dazzled by him. Who is this person? He's so handsome. Didn't they say they were going to take out the item from beyond the heavens? Is this man related to the item from beyond the heavens? What does the abstruse water gate mean? Everyone was puzzled. The abstruse water gate master glanced at the man in the crystal coffin. This person is the item from beyond the heavens that appeared 3 years ago. What? The crowd was in an uproar when they heard this. The Hierophant of Flame said, this person is the item from beyond the heavens? That's right. The abstruse water gate master nodded. 3 years ago, this person suddenly fell from the heavens and went 3 kilometers underground. When I dug him out, I found that while this body was unharmed, there was no aura at all, as if he was dead. However, it contained an enormous amount of energy. At this point, her eyes revealed a hint of surprise. The energy is so enormous that it's unbelievable. The Hierophant of Flame walked to the crystal coffin and sensed it carefully. When he sensed the energy contained within the body, his expression changed drastically. This energy is Emperor Qi. This person is also an emperor, but isn't the scale of Emperor Qi a little too exaggerated? He was also an emperor, but he felt that his Emperor Qi was like a small stream compared to the ocean. There was no comparison at all. What cultivation level was this person at when he was alive? The Hierophant of Flame exclaimed. The Sky Dragon Pavilion Master of another Emperor Orthodoxy walked over to sense it as well. His eyes lit up. If we can use this energy, it will definitely be of great help. That's right. The Hierophant of Flame seemed excited as well. It's useless. I've tried many ways to extract the energy from this body, but it's useless. The abstruse water gate master couldn't help but pour a bucket of cold water on everyone. I don't believe it. The Lord of Flame opened the crystal coffin, and a black flame appeared in his palm. Then, it covered the head of the body. His thoughts were simple and crude. That huge amount of energy existed within this body. As long as he destroyed this body, the energy would leak out. As long as he could obtain that energy, even if it was just a little bit, he would be able to increase his current realm by another level. It was a beautiful idea, but reality gave him a rude awakening. No matter how his flames burned the body in front of him, it did not suffer any damage. Not even a strand of hair was harmed. F***ck, what kind of body is this? Isn't his fleshly body a little too monstrous? The Divine Flame Monarch couldn't help but exclaim. Beside him, the Profound Water Sect Master was not surprised at all. She had long since understood the strength of this body. The toughness of this body is simply unimaginable. I've tried everything, but I couldn't damage it in the slightest. The profound water sect master said indifferently. I don't believe it. At the side, the heavenly dragon pavilion master took out a pitch-black long blade. It was an imperial weapon. It's the heavenly dragon blade. Legend has it that this blade was passed down by the first ancestral master of the heavenly dragon pavilion. It's so powerful that it's ranked in the top 3 in Bay Planet. That's right. This is one of the strongest trump cards of the heavenly dragon pavilion. Can this heavenly dragon blade hurt this body? Everyone looked at the heavenly dragon pavilion master expectantly. Some female cultivators looked at the body in the crystal coffin with heartache. This was such a good-looking person. Why did he have to treat him like this? Some female cultivators had already closed their eyes and couldn't bear to watch anymore. Break for me! The heavenly dragon pavilion master shouted. He gathered all the imperial chi in his body on the heavenly dragon blade in his hand and slashed out fiercely. The sharp blade light condensed at one point and slashed at the body. Clang! There was a metallic sound and a string of sparks shot out. Immediately after, the heavenly dragon pavilion master felt an extremely strong rebounding force. His expression changed and he was sent flying. He was sent flying hundreds of feet away. The heavenly dragon blade in his hand was trembling. The arm that held the blade had already split open and blood kept gushing out. Looking at the body in the crystal coffin, it was still flawless and unscathed. Oh my God, is this really a human body? Even the toughest metal on Shell Planet would be cut in half by that slash. How could it not hurt this body at all? That's too terrifying, everyone exclaimed. They looked at the crystal coffin with incredulity. The heavenly dragon pavilion master was also shocked. What is this body made of? What is this person's background? Inexplicably, he suddenly felt a little frightened. If this person was alive, thinking of this, he looked at the mysterious water sect master and asked, "Are you sure this person is really dead?" The mysterious water sect master glanced at him. This body doesn't have any soul fluctuations. Do you think he's dead or alive? Everything had a soul. Without a soul, it was no different from death. How can a dead person have such a strong physical body? It's unbelievable. This body definitely hides a great cultivation secret. That's right. We must figure it out. The Divine Flame Monarch and the Heavenly Dragon Pavilion Master said with fiery eyes. They had already become thearchs and were the top experts on Shell Planet. One word from them could determine the life and death of billions of people. However, as cultivators, it was their instinct to pursue higher realms. They definitely could not give up on the secret in this body. 8 Desolation Divine Furnace, appear. The Divine Flame Monarch shouted and took out a huge golden 3-legged bronze furnace. This is my country's inheritance item. It can refine everything in the world. I don't believe I can't refine this body. He raised his hand and threw the body into the bronze furnace. Instantly, golden flames exploded in the furnace. The Divine Flame Monarch pushed his Thearch energy to the extreme. In the furnace, the body emitted sparkling light under the burning flames. Countless Dao patterns seemed to be stimulated and flowed on the surface of the body. Those Dao patterns were too mysterious. The few thearchs were dazzled. It works. It really works. I can't refine it in a short time. However, I don't believe I can't refine it in 100 years, 1,000 years, or even 10,000 years. The Divine Flame Monarch laughed. His eyes shone with unprecedented brilliance. How many years had it been? How many years had he been trapped in this Thearch realm? Now, he finally saw the hope of breaking through. As long as I can find out the secret of this body, not only can I break through my current realm, but it is also possible for me to reach higher realms. It was not only the Divine Flame Monarch. The Heavenly Dragon Pavilion Master, the mysterious water sect master, and the others were also looking forward to it. Buzz, at this moment, the body in the bronze furnace seemed to have sensed something. It trembled slightly and a trace of energy was released from it. To this body, it was just a trace of energy. However, to the Thearchs present, it was a great terror that they had never seen before. With a boom, the Divine Flame Monarch's 8 Desolation Divine Furnace exploded on the spot. Terrifying flames engulfed the surroundings. The Divine Flame Monarch was the first to be hit. He was blown away by the flames and died on the spot. What do you want to do to my body? Chapter 797. What are you trying to do to my body? An indifferent voice suddenly echoed throughout the entire profound water palace. A ray of light flashed past. Everyone was initially troubled by the sudden explosion of the Divine 8 Wilderness Cauldron, but they immediately looked over when they heard the voice. Who is it? His body? What does that mean? Everyone looked over. All they saw was a young man sitting on a lotus throne in the void, staring at everyone with his chin in his hand. What surprised everyone the most was that this person's appearance was exactly the same as the man in the crystal coffin. What? What's going on? Who is this person? Everyone's mind was filled with doubts. The Sky Dragon Pavilion Master and Profound Water Sect Master stared at the young man who had suddenly appeared, which was Chu Kuangren, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. They felt an incomparably terrifying pressure from the other party, as if they were ants facing a dragon. The invisible pressure actually made them want to prostrate themselves in worship. Who are you, and why have you suddenly come to the Profound Water Sect? The Profound Water Sect Master forced himself to ask. Don't you think it's funny that you're asking me who I am after cutting and burning my body? Chu Kuangren said softly. The cultivators at the scene could not help but narrow their eyes when they heard him. They took a closer look and realized that Chu Kuangren's body was indeed in a soul form, which shocked them. How powerful must one's soul be to walk the earth in a soul form to ensure that it would not dissipate? We didn't know you were still alive. Please forgive us if we've been too presumptuous. The Profound Water Sect Master immediately admitted defeat. He was too powerful. He was not someone they could fight against at all. On the other hand, the Sky Dragon Pavilion Master stared at Chu Kuangren, his eyes flickering as he struggled internally. Should he admit defeat like the Profound Water Sect Master? That might save his life, but at the same time, it would also mean that he would lose the opportunity to ascend to the next realm. Should he fight with him? However, Chu Kuangren was unpredictable. Just that invisible domineering aura alone was enough to suffocate him. If he fought with Chu Kuangren, he would most likely die. After a series of intense struggles, the Heavenly Dragon Pavilion Master's eyes turned cold. He took out a jade scroll and crushed it. Then, he charged towards Chu Kuangren with the Heavenly Dragon Blade in his hand. With a single slash, a dragon-shaped saber chi whizzed out. Heavenly Dragon Pavilion Master, you can't. The Profound Water Sect Master's expression changed drastically. She felt that the Heavenly Dragon Pavilion Master must have gone mad. Otherwise, why would he suddenly attack Chu Kuangren? After all, Chu Kuangren was an existence whose strength was many times stronger than all of them. No matter how good his cultivation was. Could it be more important than his life? The dragon-shaped blade chi was already in front of Chu Kuangren. A playful smile appeared on Chu Kuangren's face. How brave of you to attack me. He sat motionlessly on the lotus platform. His mind power gushed out. The dragon-shaped saber chi instantly dissipated. How powerful. To be able to display such strength in his soul form. If this person's soul and body become one, even 10 of me would die. The Heavenly Dragon Pavilion Master thought to himself. The reason he dared to attack Chu Kuangren was because he knew that Chu Kuangren was only in soul form, and he thought that the strength that Chu Kuangren could unleash was limited. But he was wrong. If it were any other cultivator, their soul and body would be separated, and their strength would be greatly reduced. However, Chu Kuangren was no ordinary cultivator. His soul energy was extremely powerful, and with his mind power talent, his mind power attacks were no less powerful than an emperor's essence. This person's soul energy is very strong. It seems that it won't be easy to hold him back, the Heavenly Dragon Pavilion Master murmured. He never thought that he could defeat Chu Kuangren. All he needed to do was to hold his opponent back. Until he revealed his true trump card. Heavenly Blade Dragon Transformation, appear. The Heavenly Dragon Pavilion Master tossed the Heavenly Dragon Blade in his hand into the air. The pitch-black longsword let out a dazzling brilliance, and countless Daoist patterns circulated before it finally transformed into a ferocious black flying dragon. The form of this flying dragon was very realistic. The dragon's poise filled the air, shaking the surroundings. Rumor has it that the Heavenly Dragon Pavilion's first pavilion master was one of the most talented cultivators in Baystar's history. When he became an emperor, he once killed a dragon beast and refined its soul into his weapon. It seems that the rumor is true. This is that dragon's soul. What terrifying power! I'm afraid not many in Baystar can match up to it. The Heavenly Dragon Pavilion Master's Emperor's chi continuously gushed out as he manipulated the dragon's soul and charged towards Chu Kuangren. The dragon's poise was so vast that the entire void began to collapse wherever it went. Chu Kuangren looked at the dragon's soul with interest. He gently lifted his hand, and an invisible mind power gushed out and formed into a giant invisible hand. In an instant, the originally powerful dragon's soul was grabbed by Chu Kuangren. It was fixed in mid-air as it struggled continuously. Its roar was like thunder, causing the void to tremble. You're just a little worm. Compared to my Lil Red, you're nothing. Chu Kuangren curled his lips. The true dragon and the godly phoenix were divine beasts born from the heavenly Tao, and their growth potential was very high. Even in the vast universe, they were ranked among the top beasts, and they even had a high chance of becoming immortals in the future. However, Chu Kuangren could not see any such potential in the black dragon before him. It was obvious that it was not a true dragon. It was just a dragon beast that had obtained some true dragon blood from God knows where. There were many similar beasts. Hiss, a loud gasp could be heard from the surroundings. It was as if there was a huge swarm of rattlesnakes. Everyone was shocked. That was a dragon beast, whose strength was much stronger than the average emperor, yet Chu Kuangren managed to grab it through the air. Break! The Sky Dragon Pavilion Master roared furiously. He channeled the emperor's chi in his body to its limit, intending to help the dragon beast break free from Chu Kuangren's mind control. However, no matter how much his emperor's chi gushed out and the dragon beast struggled, Chu Kuangren's mind power did not budge. The difference between them was just too great. Alright, I'm done playing with you guys. Chu Kuangren said. He clenched his fist in the void. With a bang, the dragon beast was shattered on the spot. After the dragon beast dissipated, it turned back into the heavenly dragon blade. However, in the next instant, the famous emperor weapon shattered into countless pieces. How could this be? How could this be? The Sky Dragon Pavilion Master's face turned pale. Then, Chu Kuangren looked at him. One look from Chu Kuangren was enough to make him tremble. Stop it. A voice came from afar. A ray of light flew over. The Sky Dragon Pavilion Master was delighted when he heard that voice. The Honorable Forefather is here. However, Chu Kuangren did not care about that voice at all. His mind power gushed out and locked onto the Sky Dragon Pavilion Master. The Sky Dragon Pavilion Master's joyful expression instantly turned into horror. The next moment. With a bang, just like the Heavenly Dragon Blade, the Sky Dragon Pavilion Master was turned into countless pieces of flesh and blood. D****. An old man rushed to the scene and saw that Chu Kuangren had killed the Sky Dragon Pavilion Master. His face was so gloomy that it looked like it was about to explode. I told you to stop. Did you not hear me? Chu Kuangren said indifferently, of course I did. But do you think I'll stop just because you told me to? Do you think I'm that shameless? Chapter 798. Do you think I should stop just because you told me to? Do you think I'm that shameless? Chu Kuangren said calmly. Upon hearing that, the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master's expression turned gloomy. He killed the Sky Dragon Pavilion Master for such a ridiculous reason? It's him. The Sky Dragon Ancestral Master? Among the crowd, someone recognized the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master and could not help but exclaim. It was because the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master was too famous. He was the most talented cultivator in the history of Bay Planet's cultivation world. He single-handedly created the Sky Dragon Pavilion, and his self-created 9 forms of the Sky Dragon was almost invincible. Didn't the rumors say that the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master is dead? Why would he appear again? Is he faking his death? Isn't it obvious? I'm afraid he has been cultivating in the Sky Dragon Pavilion all these years. After so many years, who knows how terrifying his strength has become. I'm afraid no one in this world is his match. The cultivators from the Profound Water sect and the Divine Flame Kingdom couldn't help but frown when they saw this. They were very surprised by Patriarch Heavenly Dragon's sudden appearance. However, the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master did not care about the others. At that moment, Chu Kuangren was the only person in his eyes. He could feel a terrifying threat from Chu Kuangren that he had never felt before. For countless years, he had rarely felt this way. Today, it was stronger than ever. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren was also sizing up the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master before him. An ordinary heavenly honorable realm cultivator was nothing to him. What he cared about was, the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master had a familiar power. That was, the power of the Heavenly Tao. It was the first time he felt the power of the Heavenly Tao from someone else. Shao AI, analyze this person. Yes, Master. The Sky Dragon Ancestral Master is a lower-level heavenly honorable with a top-tier Emperor essence and a perfect Tao. He has mastered the top-tier 9 forms of the Sky Dragon. He possesses the Bay Planet's heavenly Tao and is the Bay Planet Lord. Information about the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master appeared in his mind. Chu Kuangren was quite surprised. Bay Planet Lord? Planet Lord? A Planet Lord? Yes, the Heavenly Dragon Patriarch has been acknowledged by the Bay Star's Heavenly Axiom and can use the power of the Heavenly Axiom. He's the Lord of the Star, so to a certain extent, Master is also the Lord of the Firmament Star, Shao AI said. I see. Chu Kuangren fell into deep thought. While he was deep in thought, the Heavenly Dragon Patriarch suddenly made his move. An extremely powerful monarch chi burst forth from his body. Countless Tao runes spread out, forming a small world that enveloped the surroundings. After that, the Sky Dragon Ancestral Lord formed his 5 fingers into a claw and clawed at Chu Kuangren. Heavenly Dragon 9 Styles, Heavenly Dragon Claw. The shadow of a gigantic dragon claw charged towards Chu Kuangren. The others were dumbfounded. Patriarch Heavenly Dragon had actually launched a sneak attack. Was this the same cultivator who was rumored to be famous and talented in Beijing? However, this also showed how much pressure Chu Kuangren had exerted on the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master. It was so much so that the Ancestral Master did not even care about his pride. Even if it was just to increase his chances of winning, he would resort to a sneak attack. Puny Empyrean, so what if you sneak attack? Chu Kuangren activated his mind power. In almost an instant, the Heavenly Dragon Claw was destroyed, and half of the Heavenly Dragon Patriarch's body was blown to smithereens. What? Patriarch Heavenly Dragon's pupils constricted. Following that, his body emitted a burst of light, and his damaged body was recovering at an extremely fast speed. Oh, it's some kind of healing treasure. I can't believe there's such a treasure on Beixing. What a surprise, Chu Kuangren said in surprise. After the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master recovered, he looked at Chu Kuangren in horror. He had been defeated in just one move. If it were not for the treasures on him, he would have died just now. Chu Kuangren was already so powerful in his soul form. How terrifying would he be if his soul and body were to fuse as one? No, I must give it my all. Heavenly Tao, lend me a hand. The Sky Dragon Ancestral Master roared. Dark clouds surged in the sky, and a surge of Heavenly Tao energy surged onto the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master's body, causing his aura to skyrocket. The Sky Dragon Ancestral Master's eyes gradually became indifferent as if there was no emotion in them. Then, he pointed a finger at Chu Kuangren from afar. Sky Dragon Finger. Majestic Emperor's Qi and Daoist runes converged to form a giant golden finger. When the finger was pointed, a large portion of the void collapsed. All the cultivators present, including the emperors, were horrified. Heavenly Tao energy? Beixing's Heavenly Tao is too weak, and you're even weaker. Chu Kuangren shook his head. With a thought, endless streams of fire gathered around him and formed into a golden-red fire lotus. The golden-red fire lotus flew out. It exploded with a loud bang. The void shattered, and the fire lotus landed on the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master like a hot knife through butter, forcefully knocking him out of his Daoist unification state. Impossible, this can't be. How can your power be so powerful? How can it be on par with the Beixing's Heavenly Tao? The Sky Dragon Ancestral Master could not believe it. I can destroy this tiny Beixing in 2 or 3 moves. What do you think the Beixing's Heavenly Tao can do to me? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The crowd went crazy. What kind of person has come to the Beixing? Even the Heavenly Tao can't do anything to him. No, I don't want to die. The Sky Dragon Ancestral Master had witnessed Chu Kuangren's strength. He no longer had any intention of fighting him, so he turned around and fled. Where can you run to? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. With a thought, spiritual qi gathered into a weapon and shot out. The Sky Dragon Ancestral Master was instantly blasted into a cloud of blood mist. After his death, a golden light orb floated in the void. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up when he saw that light orb. He channeled his mind power towards that light orb. However, at that moment, an invisible force swept towards Chu Kuangren, trying to block his mind power. That was the Beixing's Heavenly Tao. That light orb was part of the Heavenly Tao's origin. It was because of this origin that the Sky Dragon Ancestral Master was able to control the Heavenly Tao's power. Now, Chu Kuangren wanted to plunder this origin of Heavenly Tao. Get lost. With a soft yell, Chu Kuangren channeled his mind power to its limit. The Beixing's Heavenly Tao's suppression was blasted away by him. Just like what he said, if he were to unleash his full power, it would not be a problem to destroy the entire Beixing. What could the Beixing's Heavenly Tao do to him? Chu Kuangren's mind power wrapped around the origin of Heavenly Tao. Then, he let Xiao AI analyze it. The origin of Heavenly Tao had endless uses. Whether it was to increase one's cultivation level or to gain insight into the Tao of cultivation, it was very beneficial. After obtaining that part of the origin of Heavenly Tao, Chu Kuangren felt the Heavenly Tao's power within his body suddenly let out a joyful emotion. Emotion? Could the Heavenly Tao have emotions? Chu Kuangren was amazed. He enveloped the origin of Heavenly Tao with his mind power, and together with his soul, he flew towards his physical body not far away. His soul entered his physical body. His soul and body became one. Chu Kuangren opened his eyes abruptly, and an extremely surging domineering aura spread out from him to the entire Beixing like a tidal wave. The entire Beixing shook violently because of that domineering aura. Countless living beings crawled on the ground, trembling in fear. It was as if doomsday had arrived on Beijing. Chapter 799. It's still more comfortable to use my own body. Chu Kuangren moved his body around. With a wave of his hand, a terrifying windstorm was set off. The surrounding cultivators were blown away as they groaned in pain. Chu Kuangren jumped twice, and the entire Bay planet shook. The profound water sect master and the rest of the cultivators looked at Chu Kuangren, who was lying on the ground. Their eyes were trembling in shock. They could tell that Chu Kuangren did not use any emperor's essence at all. He was simply waving his hand and jumping. However, that alone was enough to make the entire Bay planet tremble. No one could imagine it. How terrifying was the power contained in that seemingly slender body. After a while, Chu Kuangren adjusted to his body and controlled his power. He was shocked when he sensed the Emperor's essence in his body. My cultivation level has broken through to the Daolord realm? Although his combat strength was comparable to a Daolord's during the battle at Blood Mountain, his cultivation level was only a top-notch heavenly venerable. However, his soul had gone to the ancient past, and his physical body had broken through to the Daolord realm on its own. That was just too strange. What's going on? Chu Kuangren rubbed his chin and pondered. He had asked Xiao AI to analyze his body, but she did not find anything unusual. On the contrary, it was so good that it was unbelievable. Master, there are traces of nirvanic rebirth on your body. Xiao AI suddenly said. Chu Kuangren immediately understood. Divine Phoenix Physique. Aside from those miscellaneous physiques, Chu Kuangren had three godly physiques that were the most powerful and mysterious. They were the Immortal Body, Universal Cauldron Physique, and Divine Phoenix Physique. Among them, the Divine Phoenix Physique allowed him to control the Phoenix Fire. At the same time, it also had a rebirth ability. The Divine Phoenix Physique's rebirth would result in a new transformation in its strength. However, Chu Kuangren could do the same. When I was at Blood Mountain, my body was disintegrated by the energy from the Blood Abyss. I was almost dead. However, that also triggered the Divine Phoenix Physique's rebirth effect, and my cultivation level rose to the Daolord realm. Chu Kuangren could not help but smile when he understood everything. What a blessing in disguise. This trip to the ancient past has greatly improved my soul energy. Now that I'm back, my physical body cultivation has also risen to the Daolord realm. Then, he looked at the profound water sect master and the others. Noticing his gaze, the mysterious water sect master walked up and braced himself to say, "We tried to defile your body, which is unforgivable. However, the people of Bay Planet are innocent. Please spare them," she finally understood. With Chu Kuangren's strength, killing them was as easy as lifting a finger. He believed that it would not be difficult to destroy the entire Bay Planet. She did not expect herself and the others to survive either. Hence, she could only hope for the next best thing, which was for Chu Kuangren to spare the other people of Bay Planet. Chu Kuangren said nothing. After pondering for a while, he said faintly, "I'm in a good mood now. It's not a big deal to spare your lives. However, from now on, I'll be in charge of Beijing. Do you have any objections?" He suddenly had an idea. The Blood Origin planet had invaded the firmament star for all sorts of resources and to expand their forces. In that case, the firmament star could do the same. This Bay planet was the first step in firmament star's development. "I don't dare," the profound water sect master said. The others also hurriedly agreed. How would they dare to have any objections? The next step was to integrate the forces of Bay Planet. To Chu Kuangren, this was not too difficult of a task. He had been a sect leader, a human king, he was already very familiar with handling these matters. There were 3 emperor-level orthodoxies in Bay Planet, which were the Heavenly Dragon Pavilion, the Profound Water Sect, and the Flame Worshipper Dynasty. The rest of the forces were led by these 3 orthodoxies. With Chu Kuangren's strength, subjugating these forces was not a problem at all. If he encountered any disobedient ones, he could settle them with just a thought. In just a few days, the entire Bay planet had changed. All the forces of sage orthodoxies and above had surrendered to him. In a courtyard of the Profound Water sect, a little girl sneaked into the courtyard and curiously looked at Chu Kuangren, who was lying under a tree. In the past few days, she had heard that a very powerful person had arrived in the Profound Water sect. It seemed like he was staying in this courtyard. Was it this good-looking big brother? She tiptoed over and looked at Chu Kuangren, who had his eyes closed. She could not help but feel a little fascinated. This big brother was just too good-looking. She couldn't help but stretch out her tender fingers, wanting to poke his face, but she encountered an invisible barrier. "Little girl, it's not good to disturb others' rest." Chu Kuangren opened his eyes and said calmly. The little girl blushed and said softly, "I'm sorry." "Forget it." Chu Kuangren could not be bothered to argue with a little girl. "Big brother, are you one of those powerful people that they've been talking about?" The little girl asked curiously. "Powerful person? Heh, what kind of powerful person?" Chu Kuangren laughed and asked. "I don't know either. I heard from my mother that you can shake the ground with just a stomp of your foot," the little girl said. That should be me then." "Really?" "Yes." "Then what cultivation techniques do you know, big brother?" "I know the heavenly aqua art." "Take a look." The little girl looked at Chu Kuangren and could not help but want to show off in front of him. She raised her hand and channeled her spiritual power to form a fist-sized water ball. She held the water ball and moved closer to him. "What do you think?" Chu Kuangren glanced at it. "Pretty good." He reached out and poked the water ball. With a bang, the water ball shattered and water splashed all over the ground. Even the corner of Chu Kuangren's shirt was wet. "Ah, I'm sorry, big brother. I can't control it well." The little girl suddenly panicked. Chu Kuangren smiled nonchalantly. "It's fine." At that moment, the Profound Water sect master walked into the yard. Her expression changed when she saw the little girl beside Chu Kuangren. "Pinger." She then saw the wet corner of Chu Kuangren's shirt and the helpless little girl. Her heart was filled with panic. Without saying a word, she was about to kneel. However, an invisible force of thought lifted her up. "Don't kneel so easily in front of a child," Chu Kuangren said calmly. The Profound Water sect master's heart throbbed. Perhaps it was not bad to follow this sect master. "Mother!" The little girl called out when she saw the Profound Water sect master. The Profound Water sect master patted her little head and then bowed slightly to Chu Kuangren. "My daughter is still young, so she doesn't know much about etiquette. Please forgive her if she has offended you." "Her name is Pinger." "Yes." She's quite talented and looks adorable. Besides, do I look like someone who would be so petty to you as to be calculative with a little girl?" Chu Kuangren said calmly. "I wouldn't dare." "Thank you for your generosity, sect master." "Oh, is there anything I can help you with?" "Sect master, the leaders of the major forces have gathered and are preparing to pay their respects to you," the Profound Water sect master said. Although it was a greeting, it was actually a declaration of allegiance to him. "There's no need for that. I'll be leaving Bay Planet soon, so before I leave, I need someone to take care of this place for me. I think you're a good choice." "I'll leave Bay Planet to you," Chu Kuangren said. The Profound Water sect master was stunned at first, but she could not help but be overjoyed. "Thank you for your kindness, sect master. I'll take care of this place for you." Chapter 800. Chu Kuangren had left the Bay Planet. He still had many things to do on Firmament Star. When he arrived at the vast universe, he wanted to sense the aura of the Firmament Star. However, perhaps because it was too far away, he could not find it. Although he did not manage to find the firmament star, he did manage to detect the aura of the Bloodgorse star. Now that he thought about it, it made sense. His physical body was destroyed on the Bloodgorse star, so it was only natural for him to recover near the Bloodgorse star. He should feel lucky that his body was not left in the Blood Origin star. Otherwise, it would not be so easy to get it back. Let's go to the Bloodgorse star and have a look. They should have a star map that leads to the firmament star. I can also steal a battleship along the way, Chu Kuangren thought. After his physical body disintegrated, the interspatial ring that had accompanied him for a long time also broke. Naturally, everything inside was gone. Right now, he could be said to be penniless. Universe. Outside the Blood Origin star. A stream of light suddenly arrived. Looking at the Bloodsource star before him, Chu Kuangren fell into deep thought. Even a living star like the Bay planet has its own heavenly Tao, yet the Bloodsource star doesn't. I didn't feel any suppression from the heavenly Tao during the battle at the Blood God Mountain either. There was something wrong with the heavenly Tao of the Blood Origin star. Was this the reason why they invaded the firmament region? Chu Kuangren pondered for a while. With a flicker, he arrived on the Blood Origin star. With a thought of the monarch's will, he collected most of the information about the current situation of the Blood Origin planet. After reading it, he could only say, how miserable it was. The battle on the Blood God Mountain was a devastating blow to the Blood Origin planet. 17 Daoist lords had fallen, and a few of the 13 Blood Kings had died in the battle in the firmament. Adding on the fact that the Blood God Mountain had been destroyed, the hearts of the people were shaken. The entire Blood Origin planet was plunged into endless natural and man-made disasters. Right now, the Blood Origin planet had basically lost the ability to invade the firmament star again. The threat of the Blood tribe was more or less resolved. The reason Chu Kuangren said, almost, was because he had sensed an extremely powerful aura that was in deep slumber on the Bloodgorse planet. Even Chu Kuangren felt threatened by that aura. It was many times more powerful than the 13 Blood Kings. Could this be the Blood God that the Blood Kings mentioned? Chu Kuangren muttered. He didn't think too much about it. Since the aura was still asleep, he didn't plan to rashly disturb it. Got it, found it. Chu Kuangren found a place where the Blood tribe had parked their battleships. He cast the spatial transportation technique. Somewhere on the Blood Origin star. Many battleships were parked here. These warships were originally used by the Blood tribe to invade the outside world. However, after the battle at Blood God Mountain, the Blood tribe had lost more than half of their resources. They were temporarily unable to launch an interstellar war against the outside world. These warships could only be temporarily stacked together. The Blood tribe member in charge of the warships couldn't help but sigh. I wonder when we'll be able to use these warships again. Who knows? One of the Blood clansmen said helplessly. I heard that the Blood Kings aren't planning to give up on Firmament Star that easily. It seems like they're planning to seek help from Purple Star. Purple Star? No way, Purple Star is one of the 2 most powerful civilizations in the Purple Gold Galaxy. Will they help us? I wonder what kind of conditions the Blood Kings offered. A few blood breeds discussed in low voices. At this moment, a rumbling sound came from not far away. A warship suddenly rose into the air. What's going on? Who activated the battleship? Damn it, we didn't notice anything at all. The vampires were in an uproar. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren sat in the cockpit of the warship. He opened the star map and found the direction of Firmament Star. Not long after, the warship flew out of the Bloodborne planet. There were a few warships following closely behind him, but they were all shot down by Chu Kuangren. In the vast universe, Chu Kuangren steered the warship and flew towards Firmament Star. The warship he was piloting was already the best warship in the Bloodborne planet, but it would still take a few months to fly back to Firmament Star. Hence, he decided to go into closed-door cultivation in the warship Firmament Star, in the outer domain. The Dao Lords were gathered together, discussing something. Now that the Blood Tribe is no longer a threat, I suggest that we dispel the hateful parting heavenly formation and release the Sword Dao Lord and the others. The Dharma Dao Lord said. I don't agree. The Heavenly Yellow Dao Lord said indifferently, the hateful parting heavenly formation is an important formation to protect Firmament Star. Although the Blood Tribe is no longer a threat, who knows if other extraterrestrial civilizations will come to attack. The hateful parting heavenly formation can't be dispelled just yet. The Sword Dao Lord and the others have been in slumber for 12 eras as the formation core. Do you want them to continue to slumber endlessly? Heavenly Yellow, don't you think that's a little too selfish? The Dharma Dao Lord argued. They're willing to do this. The Dharma Dao Lord's expression was extremely ugly. At the end of the day, you're just afraid that we'll come out and threaten your position. Heavenly Yellow, during the battle of the defiant deities, you've also taken the lead and contributed a lot to the human race. It seems that power and status are indeed a poison to you. I can't believe you've changed so much. Luo Shui sneered and said. Heavenly Yellow, tell me, what do you want? You've been getting more and more restless these past few years. Many deities in Firmament Star have been breaking their seals, and I'm sure you've played a part in that too. You're risking universal condemnation. The heavenly executioner's voice came from beyond the sky. Then, a green robe appeared. It was the first heavenly executioner. He looked at the Heavenly Yellow Dao Lord coldly and said, the deities of Firmament Star are breaking their seals one after another. Heavenly Yellow, the seventh executioner has discovered your unique power of heaven and earth at the seal. You must give me an explanation. Upon hearing this, the Dao Lords looked at Heavenly Yellow with cold eyes. Even the Dao Lords who were on good terms with him could not help but take 2 steps back, quickly indicating that they had nothing to do with this matter. The Heavenly Yellow Dao Lord said calmly, I did it. Heavenly Yellow, what are you trying to do? How many of us died in the battle of the defiant deities, and how much effort did we put in to seal them? Why are you doing this? Heavenly Yellow, you must give me an explanation. The Dao Lords did not expect Heavenly Yellow to admit it so readily. Their expressions darkened. They could sit back and watch as the Heavenly Yellow Dao Lord's power grew over the years and manipulate the situation of the extraterrestrial battlefield. However, the seal of the gods was forged by their ancestors with their flesh and blood. The Heavenly Yellow Dao Lord's actions were undoubtedly trampling on their efforts. This was something the Dao Lords could not tolerate. Everyone, times have changed. Firmament Star's development has reached its limit. It's time for us to look for change. Now that the Blood Tribe's crisis has been resolved, I've decided to follow the Blood Tribe's example and launch a war against the outside world. We'll develop Firmament Star by seizing the resources of other civilizations, and the gods will be our greatest help. I know that everyone has a great prejudice against the gods, but they're just like us. We were all born in Firmament Star, so they're on the same side as us. I hope that everyone can let go of the prejudice in their hearts and think about the future of Firmament Star, the Heavenly Yellow Dao Lord said sincerely. His words caused everyone to fall into deep thought. Meanwhile, Luo Shui sneered, let go of the prejudice in my heart? You make it sound so nice. Then why don't you ask those martyrs who were killed by the gods? Ask them, can they let go of the prejudice in their hearts? Don't forget how the gods kept the human race in captivity back then. If it weren't for you, King, do you think you'd still be here talking about the future? Working with the gods? Dream on. Chapter 801. Cooperate with the gods? Luo Shui only had one word for such a thing, dream on. Which of the gods who were sealed today had not stained their hands with the blood of human ancestors? What would happen to the human ancestors if he cooperated with them? The heavenly yellow Tao Lord took a deep breath and continued, Luo Shui, you carry too many shackles of the past. If everyone is like you, bound by the past, how will Firmament Star develop? Those are not shackles. They are motivations. They are a force that constantly motivates the human race to never forget to develop. Heavenly Yellow, if you can easily abandon this part of history, then the human race will truly have no future. Luo Shui said in a heavy tone. In short, I have made up my mind. If you can agree to work with me, that would be for the best. If not, it doesn't matter. After all, we must cooperate with the gods, the heavenly yellow Tao Lord said indifferently. Heavenly Yellow, aren't you afraid of being despised by the human race? When I lead Firmament Star to prosperity, they will only remember my glorious achievements. They will worship me as their king. The heavenly yellow Tao Lord said calmly. King? You want to be called king? The first heavenly executioner was stunned. Can't I? In our hearts, there is only one king. The first heavenly executioner glanced at the heavenly yellow Tao Lord and then sneered. Compared to the king, you are like a firefly to the bright moon. Do you think you deserve to be called king? If you want to cooperate with the gods, that's your business. However, the gods and us heavenly executioners are irreconcilable. If they appear, we will kill them. This is the mission that the king has given us. After the first heavenly executioner finished speaking, his figure disappeared into the void. After he left, the Dharma Tao Lord, Luo Shui, and the others also left one after another. Soon, the entire palace became empty. Only the heavenly yellow Tao Lord was left. He stood in place, silent, and then slammed his palm on the palace pillar next to him. A bunch of ignorant fools. The heavenly yellow Tao Lord opened his eyes, extremely cold. TSK, heavenly yellow Tao Lord, it seems that your position in the human race is not as high as you think. A sudden laughter rang out, and a man in a black robe with a golden scale on his forehead suddenly appeared in the void. This was a member of the Kirin clan. He knew that the highest cultivation in the Qilin clan was only at the Emperor realm. However, this person from the Qilin clan wasn't the slightest bit reserved when facing the black-yellow path master. Instead, he looked at him with a playful expression. See God, shut up. Otherwise, I don't mind canceling the cooperation with the gods, black-yellow path master said with a cold snort. See God shrugged. Alright, I won't say any more. How are you adapting to this body? Heh, this Qilin clan is a race that was born from my godly power. They have also refined my godhood. Although this isn't my true body, I can already unleash about 70 to 80% of my battle prowess. Very good. I'll leave the sovereign seal to you. The black-yellow path master said. Although he had unsealed some gods in the past few days, they were all existences below the main god level. As for the seal of the main god level, even he would have to expend a lot of energy. He planned to let the sea god do it. It doesn't matter. What do you plan to do with the sacred mountain seal? The sea god asked. At the mention of the divine mountain seal, he could not help but reveal a grave expression. That was because the seal was personally set up by the sovereign personage. Even a main god would have a hard time breaking it. And the one sealed in the sacred mountain was the Lord of Gods. The seal of the sacred mountain was set up by the sovereign personage. Of course, only the sovereign personage can open it. All these years, I've collected some of the sovereign personage's relics. They contain the sovereign personage's power, which can be used to break the sacred mountain seal. I've already handed this matter over to someone else. Oh, is it him? Yes, in the entire firmament star, he's the only one who can do this. Heh, the son of the sovereign personage, the one who lost to the sovereign personage. I wonder how much he's improved after so many years. See, God was looking forward to it. On the other side, The demonic realm. In an abyss of the demonic realm, Demon Emperor Pride arrived. He looked at the abyss in front of him with a crazed look in his eyes. This was the forbidden area of the demonic realm, Hell. Rumor had it that the demonic realm's ancestral god was sealed here. And today, he was here to free the other party. For this day, he had prepared for several years. He slammed his palm on the ground. Instantly, blood-colored Daoist markings intertwined and circulated, forming a huge formation. Countless blood mists surged in from all directions. Among the blood mists, skeletons appeared one after another. Those were the living beings of the demonic realm. These were all slaughtered by Demon Emperor Pride over the past few years. The demon god of hell. With billions of living beings of the demonic realm as sacrifices, I invite you to descend upon me. Boom, 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 in an instant, the entire abyss shook violently. As countless blood mists surged into it, some of the golden Daoist markings gradually disintegrated, and wisps of black mist gushed out from within. The seal is broken, it's broken. We've finally regained our freedom, loud laughter echoed throughout the entire demonic realm. With a loud explosion, the golden Daoist markings that covered the entire abyss of hell suddenly shattered, and a pitch-black pillar of air shot up into the sky. The entire demonic realm shook as if it was about to collapse. From within the pillar of air, an imposing figure with black hair walked out. His entire body was filled with a monstrous divine power aura. That divine power was similar to demonic chi. Demon Emperor Pride could not help but kneel on the ground. Greetings, Demon God. Demon God, the god of the demonic realm. All the living beings of the demonic realm were born because of this god. Demon Emperor Pride had once read some ancient records. It said that the demonic realm was once a human, but because of the leakage of this demon god's divine power, they gradually turned into the demonic realm. Just the influence of the divine power alone was enough to create the entire demonic realm. Demon Emperor Pride could not imagine how terrifying that was. You've done well. The demon god glanced at Demon Emperor Pride and said. Beside him were 7 top-tier higher celestials. These 7 higher celestials were pride, sloth, tyranny, gluttony, greed, envy, and lust. The power of the 7 demonic emperors came from them. Thank you for the compliment, demon god. Tell me, what's your wish? Upon hearing that, Demon Emperor Pride's face was filled with extreme resentment. He said, Demon god, I want to kill someone. Oh, tell me about it. It's a human called Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren had left him with too much shame. In order to kill Chu Kuangren, he did not hesitate to slaughter more than half of the living beings in the demonic realm to break the demon god's seal. The sea deity, who had just returned to the deep ocean, sensed the powerful divine power fluctuations from the underworld demonic realm. His eyes lit up. That demon god has broken the seal first. He's really something. Now that the demon god had broken the seal, the pressure on him would be greatly reduced. The seals of the primary gods could also be broken faster. Once the gods return, this land will return to our control. No, not only this land, but the universe and all living beings in this vast universe will become their faith. The sea deity was extremely excited. He felt that he had been too narrow-minded in the past. What was a firmament star? They wanted to become the gods of this universe. Chapter 802. I should be there soon. Chu Kuangren murmured as he gazed at the vast starry sky. After a few months of sailing, he was nearing Firmament Star. He wondered how Firmament Star was doing now. With that thought in mind, he randomly found a place to park the warship. He took the star map and flew towards Firmament Star alone. Soon, he saw a blue and white planet in the vast starry sky. There were faint golden lights on it. That was Firmament Star. The golden lights were the hateful parting great formation that enveloped the planet. He concealed his aura and did not alert anyone. Once he found Fort 31, his figure flashed and he easily entered. Walking in the fort, everything was the same. His emperor's thoughts surged as he quickly gathered all kinds of information. After the battle at the Blood Abyss, the Blood Tribe did not invade again. Now, the extraterrestrial battlefield was unprecedentedly peaceful. The cultivators of the various forts felt like they had nothing to do. Let's go find Luo Shui to understand the situation first. Inside the general's residence, Luo Shui was watering a potted plant in the yard. However, her brows were tightly knitted as if she was thinking about something. No one had expected the Black-Yellow Dao Lord to cooperate with the deities. No one knew what would happen in the end. If things went wrong, the human race might even return to the dark days when they were kept in captivity by the deities. When that time came, would there be a second human king standing up? The Black-Yellow Dao Lord is too ambitious. He wants to borrow the power of the deities to strengthen himself. He wants to be a king himself. Do you think the deities are that easy to control? The more Luo Shui thought about it, the more frustrated she became. It was fine for the Black-Yellow Dao Lord to play with fire, but if he dragged the entire human race down with him, the consequences would be unimaginable. Now that the Blood Tribe's crisis has been resolved, the most important thing now is to discuss with the Dharma Dao Lord and the others. Luo Shui murmured. This flower is going to die from your watering. At that moment, a cold voice rang out. Luo Shui was stunned for a moment before her expression changed. The Emperor's qi surged out of her body and the little world instantly enveloped her surroundings. D***MN. Did I get distracted too much? She did not even notice that someone was approaching. However, when she turned around and saw who it was, she was stunned. She stared at him in disbelief. Brother Chu? It was Chu Kuangren. Luo Shui was dumbfounded the moment he saw Chu Kuangren. There were too many doubts in her mind. Fellow Luo Shui, how have you been? Chu Kuangren chuckled. Fellow Daoist Chu, what's going on? You're not dead? Luo Shui was pleasantly surprised. Isn't it obvious? Luo Shui kept his mini-world and looked at Chu Kuangren. He could not help but walk up to him and pat him on the chest. You're really not dead. She couldn't believe it. I'm really not dead, Chu Kuangren said helplessly. What the hell is going on? It's a long story. Let's talk about it in the future. I see that you have a worried look on your face. You're watering the flowers absent-mindedly. The flowers are about to be killed by you. Tell me, what's going on? It's all because of the mysterious yellow sect master. Luo Shui told him everything about how the mysterious yellow sect master wanted to cooperate with the gods. A cold glint flashed across Chu Kuangren's eyes when he heard that. Oh, a centipede is still alive even when it's dead. These gods are getting restless again. Beside him, Luo Shui suddenly felt her scalp tingle. Just a moment ago, she felt a strong sense of threat from Chu Kuangren. How strong was he now? I'll go back to the firmament star to take a look. As for the mysterious yellow sect master, I'll leave him to you and Brother Wanfa. Chu Kuangren said. Luo Shui pondered for a while and said, all right. By the way, how are the heavenly executioners? Chu Kuangren vaguely remembered that the heavenly executioners had also participated in the Battle of the Blood Abyss. He did not have much of an impression at that time, but after returning from the ancient times, he noticed a few familiar figures. The last battle worsened the heavenly executioners' injuries. Now that the mysterious yellow sect master is cooperating with the gods, I'm afraid they're powerless even if they're unwilling. Luo Shui sighed. She looked at Chu Kuangren and smiled. Brother Chu, it's a relief that you're able to return at this time. Thank you for your trust, Brother Luo Shui. Chu Kuangren smiled, took a step forward, and disappeared into the void. He came to the teleportation point of fort number 31 and returned to the Nine Heavens Central City. From there, he returned to the Firmament Star. As soon as he entered the Firmament Star, before Chu Kuangren could do anything, a mysterious fluctuation of the heavenly Tao suddenly enveloped him. The scenery around him changed. He appeared in a white space. Then, countless light patterns flowed in front of him, and a figure shrouded in golden light appeared. This figure had no facial features. Judging from its shape, it looked like a human. It was about a meter tall, and its body shone with golden light. Let's call it the Little Golden Man for now. The Little Golden Man appeared in front of Chu Kuangren without saying a word. If he had eyes, he would be staring straight at Chu Kuangren. At that moment, Chu Kuangren understood something. Without Xiao Ai's explanation, he could guess the identity of the Little Golden Man in front of him. "You're the Firmament Star's heavenly Tao." The Little Golden Man nodded slightly. "Did you come to me for this origin of the heavenly Tao?" Chu Kuangren took out the origin of the heavenly Tao that he obtained from the Bay Star. The Little Golden Man nodded again and walked up eagerly. Chu Kuangren pondered for a while and handed over the origin of the heavenly Tao. The Little Golden Man took the origin of the heavenly Tao, and a big black mouth appeared on his originally featureless face. He bit off a piece of the origin of the heavenly Tao and continued to chew on it. The heavenly Tao grows stronger by devouring other heavenly Taos. The power of the heavenly Tao in my body has also increased. Chu Kuangren thought. Was he feeding the heavenly Tao? He looked at the Little Golden Man and suddenly subconsciously reached out and touched his head. It felt good, soft, and warm. The Little Golden Man did not refuse and continued to chew on the origin of the heavenly Tao. Is this considered rubbing the heavenly Tao? Chu Kuangren was amazed. Others rubbed cats and dogs, but he was rubbing the heavenly Tao. Not bad, not bad. When the Firmament Star's heavenly Tao finished devouring the Bay Star's origin of the heavenly Tao, its figure turned into countless golden light spots and dissipated. The white space around him also disappeared. Chu Kuangren returned to the real world. Running away after eating? Great heavenly Tao. Chu Kuangren curled his lips. Forget it, let's get down to business first. His return to the Firmament Star this time was not only to solve the problem with the deities, but also to go to another place. Deep in the sea. There was a huge oceanic trench with no living creatures around. It was a place even deeper than the deep sea. There was another name for this place, the ancient Kunlun Abyss. The place where the human rulers and divine masters fought in the past. That battle directly destroyed this place, and it sank into the deep sea. Moreover, because this place still had the aura of the past, no living creatures dared to live here. But today, a white figure suddenly appeared. Chapter 803. Ancient Kunlun Abyss. The place where the human Emperor Tsang and the Master Deity once fought. That battle was so intense that it caused the entire Kunlun Abyss to be destroyed and sunk to the bottom of the sea. The aura of that battle continued to linger to this day, and no one dared to approach it. Today, Chu Kuangren arrived. Looking at the messy Kunlun Abyss that was filled with battle scars, Chu Kuangren's soul immediately left his body and shone brightly in the deep sea. He immediately pushed his soul perception to the limit. He came here to look for the earth soul and human soul. He wanted to see if there were any remnants of soul energy here. Under the control of the heaven soul, the entire ancient Kunlun Abyss was filled with specks of starlight, which then converged into an illusory figure. That figure was Chu Kuangren's other soul. In other words, the human Emperor Tsang. Tsang looked around at his surroundings in confusion. Then, he saw Chu Kuangren and smirked. Looks like you've returned to the future. Long time no see, real body. To me, it's only been a few months. Not counting the 10 or so eras after my death, I haven't seen you for 10,000 years. The human Emperor Tsang smiled. "All right, return to your body," Chu Kuangren said. The human Emperor Tsang nodded slightly. Although he turned into a stream of light and returned to Chu Kuangren's body with the heaven soul. Although he had died once, the remnant soul energy of the human Emperor Tsang still allowed Chu Kuangren to reconstruct the fourth transformation Earth Soul. The human Emperor Tsang's 10,000 years of memories quickly flowed into his mind. Among them, some of their insights into Taoism were also included. Among the three souls, the heaven soul was the dominant one. After Chu Kuangren's heaven soul left, although it was difficult for the earth soul and human soul to improve, there were still many insights after 10,000 years. These were of great use to Chu Kuangren. What a long time. After Chu Kuangren finished absorbing the human Emperor Tsang's memories, a sense of vicissitudes flashed across his eyes. Suddenly, there was a tremor in his body. He frowned slightly and took out a transparent crystal. Within the crystal, there were specks of five-colored light appearing one after another. Something happened to the five elements divine shadow army? The five ways godly shadow army was a force that Chu Kuangren had left on Firmament Star to protect the development of the Black Firmament divine cult. When the soldiers of this army died in battle, their souls would return to the core of the army, which was the crystal in Chu Kuangren's hand. Now, there were light spots continuously appearing in the crystal. This meant that the soldiers of the five elements divine shadow army were dying one after another. There aren't many forces in the Firmament Star that can threaten the five elemental shadow army. It seems like the gods have made their move. Black Heaven Sect. The gods stood in the air, looking down at the astonishing cloud of seas formation and the five elemental divine shadow army. Their eyes were filled with ridicule. "I want to see how long you can last." A high god with the head of a crocodile chortled. He was the crocodile god, a subordinate of the sea god. He held a huge axe in his hand and chopped down. A dazzling blade light flashed and covered half the sky. A vast divine power aura shattered the astonishing cloud of seas formation spirit cloud dragon. Like a hot knife through butter, the saber light slashed toward the immortal hull. With a loud bang, it smashed onto a yellow barrier. That was a barrier that the Deep Earth Guardians constructed using the Earth energy. Its defensive power was so strong that it could even block the attacks of the gods. The Deep Earth Guardians protected the immortal hull. On the other hand, the Sharp Gold Guardians, Crimson Flame Guardians, Greenwood Guardians, and Feeble Water Guardians were fighting the gods, but they were clearly at a disadvantage. Chu Kuangren had improved a lot in recent years, and so had the five elemental divine shadow army. The five great commanders of the divine shadow army were now at the upper heavenly honorable realm, and the rest had all become emperors. However, against the gods before them, it was still not enough. Even the weakest of the gods was at the heavenly honorable realm. It was only because these divine shadow guards were not afraid of death and had been through hundreds of battles that they were able to slow down the pace of the gods' attack. I really don't know where the Black Heaven divine cult found such a strange army. Every one of them is so powerful. The serpent deity, who was in his python form, could not help but feel puzzled as he fought the Crimson Flame commander. Beside him, a god who controlled the storm did not seem to care. He snorted and said, "No matter what, the Black Heaven divine cult and the Black Heaven sect must be destroyed today. How dare these people proclaim that we're false gods and worship some true Black Heaven deity? What a joke. That was the reason why the gods came to them. A long time ago, they were the faith of the human race. Even after they were sealed, there were still believers who secretly grew stronger and provided them with the power of faith. However, after they awakened from the seal, they realized that their believers had all gone to worship some true Black Heaven deity. They even claimed that they were false gods. How could they tolerate that? They wanted to destroy the Black Heaven divine cult, the self-proclaimed true Black Heaven deity, Chu Kuangren, and everyone else related to him. Inside the barrier. Lan Yu, Elder Ruyan, Xian Qi, Murong Xian, and the others watched the gods attack with grave expressions. If this goes on, I'm afraid we won't be able to hold on much longer. Elder Ruyan said solemnly. The Five Affinities Divine Shadow Army was their strongest combat force, but if even the Five Affinities Divine Shadow Army could not hold on, what more them? All disciples below the Emperor realm have retreated. A pitch-black figure arrived. It was the Mystic Sword Guard. Back then, she had infiltrated the Dark Divine Cult and became their saintess. In recent years, she had also broken through and become an emperor. Through hard work, she had gained complete control of the Emperor's Paths branch before she switched to the Black Heaven Divine Cult. Now, she was an elder of the Black Heaven Divine Cult. Thank you for your hard work, Elder Ruyan. Even if we die this time, we'll at least be able to preserve some of our seeds, Elder Ruyan said. Don't be discouraged. With me around, you won't die so easily, the godly phoenix Lil Red said in her bright red armor. She had matured quite a bit. She looked like a 17 or 18-year-old human girl. Now, she was the strongest combat force in the Black Heaven sect. Her cultivation level had reached the upper heavenly honorable realm, and she could even fight against a half-step Dao Lord. Beside the godly phoenix, Lan Yu and Gu Linglong, who had returned to Firmament Star and had become an emperor, wielded their emperor weapons with a determined look on their faces. If you want to destroy the Black Heaven sect, you'll have to step over our dead bodies. Lan Yu said coldly. Crack, crack, at that moment, the gods had broken a hole in the barrier. Several gods rushed in. Huh, we've finally cracked open this tortoise shell. Mortals, die. Divine power erupted and whizzed towards Lan Yu and the others. The godly phoenix took a step forward with phoenix fire burning in her palm. I am Chu Hong of the Black Heaven sect. Have a taste of my phoenix fire. With a slap of her palm, the whizzing phoenix fire burned with divine power. Several gods could not dodge in time and were blasted away. It's a divine beast. I didn't expect there to be a divine beast here. This godly phoenix's strength is at least on par with an upper god. Leave this godly phoenix to me. You guys go deal with the others. An upper god fought the godly phoenix. The rest of the gods attacked Lan Yu, the Mystic Sword Guard, and the others. Humph, lesser world, open. Lan Yu, who had become a heavenly honorable, immediately opened her lesser world. Meanwhile, Gu Linglong, the Mystic Sword Guard, and the others had also engaged the gods. Chapter 804. In the Black Heaven sect. Everyone was locked in battle with the gods. Just as Lan Yu and the others were losing ground, an incomparably cold voice came from beyond the heavens. Gods, you dare to show yourself? You're courting death. Several voices came from the sky. Several streaks of light flew over. It was the Heaven Executioner. As the Heavenly Executioner appeared, mysterious Tao patterns circulated in all directions. The power of heavenly punishment instantly intimidated all the gods present. The Heaven Executioners. They're actually here. Humph, so what if it's them? In the battle against the rebel god, they suffered serious injuries. I guess they haven't recovered yet. That's right. It's a good chance for us to get our revenge for the battle against the gods. The gods were frightened at first, but they soon regained their senses and looked at the few Heaven Executioners with cold killing intent in their eyes. The hatred between the gods and the Heaven Executioners was too great. In the war against the gods, most of the gods were sealed by the 9 Heaven Executioners. Let's kill these Heavenly Executioners first, then destroy the Black Heaven sect. The crocodile god said coldly. Let's give it a try then. The celestial executioner and the gods were locked in battle, and the terrifying energy waves shook half of Firmament Star. With the arrival of the celestial executioner, the pressure on Lan Yu, Elder Ruyan, and the others was greatly reduced. But it was still a critical situation. In outer space, the Dao Lords were also paying attention to this battle. The Myriad Arts Dao Lord, Luo Shui, and the others wanted to take action, but they were stopped by the Black-Yellow Dao Lord and his men. Black-Yellow Sect Master, what are you trying to do? The Scarlet Sun Dao Lord questioned furiously. The Myriad Laws Dao Master and Luo Shui also looked coldly at the Black-Yellow Dao Master. The Heavenly Yellow Dao Lord said indifferently, I've already reached an agreement with the gods. As long as the Heavenly Executioner and the Black Divine Cult are no more, they will assist us in conquering other civilizations and strengthening Firmament Star. These words caused the Master of the Infinite Laws to widen his eyes as he looked at the other party in disbelief. Xian Huang, do you know what you're saying? Do you want the greatest hero in the battle against the gods to die? The Dao Lord of 10,000 Laws felt that such a thing was utterly ridiculous. For the sake of the human race, the Heavenly Executioners had risked their lives in the battle against the gods. They had made great contributions to the war, and everyone respected them. But now, in order to cooperate with the gods who were once the enemies of the human race, the Black-Yellow Path Master actually wanted the Heaven Executioner to die? The humans protected by the Heavenly Executioners were going to stab them in the back. The Myriad Dharma Path Master felt that there was nothing more ridiculous in this world than this. He looked at the mysterious Yellow Path Master and felt that he was a complete stranger. Only now did he fully understand that Chen Shi wasn't that comrade that he could fight alongside in the battle of the gods any longer. Their great achievements will be recorded in the history of the human race. For the future of the human race, I believe they will be willing. The mysterious Yellow Path Master said indifferently. You keep talking about the future of the human race. Are you talking about your future or the future of the human race? The Path Master of 10,000 Laws was furious. When I become a human king, I will be one with the human race. My future will be the future of the human race. There is no difference. Bullshit. The Dao Lord of the Scarlet Sun Dao Lord couldn't take it anymore. A large black hammer appeared in his hand, and he swung it with a force that was powerful enough to shatter stars. Amidst the rumbling, a vast expanse of the void exploded. The mysterious Yellow Path Master punched out, and the power of heaven and earth erupted. With a bang, the Dao Lord of the Scarlet Sun Dao Lord was sent flying. His expression changed slightly as he looked at the mysterious Yellow Path Master. Your strength, surprised, right? I've already ascended to the peak of the Minor Dao Master. Now, even Hun Dun is no match for me. Now, the human race respects me. Apart from me, who dares to call themselves a king? The mysterious Yellow Path Master laughed coldly. All these years, he had been hiding his true strength. The Dao Lord of the Myriad Dharma Path Master had a solemn look in his eyes. The peak of the Minor Dao Master was 2 minor stages higher than him. 1 minor stage was already a gap that was difficult to make up for, let alone 2. Are you all going to follow the mysterious Yellow Path Master and abandon the human race? The Dao Lord of the Myriad Dharma Path Master looked at the other Dao Lords. The other Dao Lords looked at each other. The demon race will not participate in the affairs of the human race. The Dao Lord of the Bright Moon Path Master retreated to the side with the other Dao Lords. The remaining few humans took a deep breath and stood beside the Black-Yellow Path Master. Their intentions were already very clear. I agree with the mysterious Yellow Path Master. It's time for a change in Firmament Star. The gods may be our greatest help. Yes, perhaps the mysterious Yellow Path Master is right. Seeing this scene, the Dao Lord of the Myriad Dharma Path Master felt a chill in his heart. He hadn't expected that the comrades who had fought side by side with him in the past would actually be divided to such an extent. If the king was still here, would you still dare to do this? The Dao Lord of the Myriad Dharma Path Master sighed. Hearing this, everyone's eyes flashed and their expressions changed. An imposing figure in white involuntarily appeared in their minds. If that person was still here, who would dare to do this? After all, that was the greatest king of the human race. Unfortunately, that person is no longer here. The human race needs a new king, and that is me, to lead them into a new era, the mysterious Yellow Path Master said indifferently, his eyes showing impatience. He hated it when people mentioned that person. In the past, like the others, he worshipped the king. However, as his ambition grew, he gradually changed. He wanted to be the new king. That king had been dead for so long, but his reputation still remained, becoming the biggest obstacle on his path to becoming a king. Every time someone mentioned him, there would be an irrepressible look of worship in their eyes, which was very irritating to him. How could a dead king compare to him when he was alive? You want to be a king? You're not qualified. The Dharma Tao Lord roared. His emperor's qi and Daoist markings exploded to the maximum as he fought the mysterious Yellow Path Master. The Scarlet Sun Tao Lord and Luo Shui also joined in. In the vast galaxy, the human Tao Lords were fighting each other. Inside the Black Heaven sect, the Heavenly Executioner and the higher gods were fighting fiercely. Although the Heavenly Executioner had the power of heavenly punishment, he had suffered significant injuries during the war against the gods, and he was also injured during the Battle of the Blood Abyss. This battle was very forceful. It's quite lively here. At this moment, there was a sudden burst of laughter. Several streaks of light flew over. Every single one of them contained terrifying divine power. Everyone present could feel a strong sense of pressure. Such an aura. They're no ordinary gods. They're top-notch higher gods. They're probably not far off from the over-gods. This aura. Could it be them? The Heavenly Executioners exchanged glances. The streams of light dissipated. 7 gods of different shapes and sizes appeared before everyone. There were old and young, men and women, and all of them had powerful divine power auras. Long time no see, Heavenly Executioner. A black-haired burly man looked at the Heavenly Executioner and said indifferently. Pride God, it's you guys. The first Heavenly Executioner looked at him coldly. Your auras are really so weak that I'm surprised. It seems that the war against the gods has hurt you guys to this day. The Pride God looked at the Heavenly Executioners and sneered. You guys are out. That demon god has also broken his seal, right? The first Heavenly Executioner said indifferently. It's not just the demon god. The other over-gods will also be unsealed. This vast land will once again be under the control of the gods. As for you rebels, only death awaits you. Chapter 805. Only death. Pride God said coldly. A powerful and domineering divine power aura that was close to a lord level burst forth and engulfed the entire Black Heaven sect. This aura was far more powerful than that of an ordinary high god. Tisk, as expected of a top god who was second only to the Lord God among the gods of the past. This power is really amazing. The crocodile god could not help but click his tongue in wonder. The people from the Black Heaven sect were in despair. It was already a very difficult fight. Now, another 7 top-notch superior gods had come. Such power was not something they could match at all. Where is Chu Kuangren? Next to Pride God, a demon emperor walked out. In the eyes of the experts present, his aura could be said to be insignificant. The Heaven Executioners didn't notice him at first. However, Lan Yu and the others were quite surprised to see him. Demon Emperor Pride, why is he here? It seems like it has something to do with those gods. Is he here to seek revenge against the sect leader? Upon hearing Chu Kuangren's name, everyone from the Black Heaven sect could not help but feel sad and nostalgic. 3 years ago, the Descendant Self-Sword had returned to the Black Heaven sect on its own. Since then, there had been no further movements from the Descendant Self-Sword. Someone from the outer domain had informed them that Chu Kuangren had died in battle. They still couldn't believe this news. How could that person die? However, 3 years had passed, and there was still no news of Chu Kuangren. Oh, he's not here? Demon Emperor Pride's emperor's thought swept across the Black Heaven sect, but he did not see Chu Kuangren anywhere. He sneered and said, "Oh well, now that the deities have descended, I'll take your lives to show off the might of the deities. Where did this idiot come from? How dare he talk nonsense here?" San Xing snorted coldly. He raised his hand and activated the emperor's qi, then punched out. The monarch qi tore through the air, shattering the void. Demon Emperor Pride couldn't help but narrow his eyes. He felt that this attack was unbelievably powerful. Just as he was about to be smashed to death by the punch, Pride God, who was next to him, made a move and gently raised his hand to block the attack for him. "You're too weak. Step aside." Arrogance God said lightly. "Yes." Demon Emperor Pride gulped and retreated to the side. For the first time, he felt insignificant. He was only at the early Emperor realm. In front of these gods and celestial venerables, he was like an ant that could be easily crushed to death. "Alright, Heaven Executioner, go to hell." The Pride God raised his hand and activated his divine power. However, at that moment, the first Heavenly Executioner suddenly chuckled. The aura on his body rose rapidly. Heavenly Executioners never fear death. I only hate the fact that I haven't killed enough gods. The first Heavenly Enforcer let out a low roar, and an iron sword suddenly appeared in his hand as the aura of a Tao Lord erupted. "What? Big brother, don't." The expressions of the gods and the Heavenly Executioners changed. Pride God's expression was somewhat unsightly. "Madman, you actually disregarded your internal injuries and activated a secret technique to forcefully erupt with the strength of a Tao Lord. In this way, you'll die without a doubt. Before I die, I will drag all of you down with me." The first Heavenly Executioner raised his sword and slashed out. Wherever the sword chi passed, a large area of the void shattered. In the face of this sword, Pride God's face suddenly changed, and he broke out in a cold sweat. He shouted to the other 6 gods, "Join forces." The 7 top-notch higher gods unleashed their divine powers at the same time. Greedy demonic light. Arrogant divine blade slash. Jealous eye. Pink illusionary butterfly. The 7 gods activated their divine powers to the extreme and turned them into various attacks. Demonic light, sword chi, fist chi, flying red butterflies, and many other attacks clashed with the first Heavenly Executioner's sword chi. It was as if stars had collided, and everything within millions of miles was shaken. The 7 gods were sent flying by the sword chi, and their faces were slightly pale. In the Black Heaven sect, Elder Ruyan and the others were overjoyed. Although they did not recognize the first Heavenly Executioner, he was so powerful now. If he could defeat the gods, then they would be saved. However, the next moment, something happened again. After the first Heavenly Executioner unleashed another sword strike, he immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face instantly turned pale. "Huh, looks like your injuries are much more serious than I thought. You can only unleash one sword strike and you're already done for." Pride God saw this and immediately laughed proudly. That sword strike just now had indeed frightened him. They did not expect the first Heavenly Executioner to be so crazy that he would activate a Daolord's strength at all costs. However, it was obvious that the first Heavenly Executioner's injuries were so severe that even after activating a secret technique, he had triggered a backlash from his injuries after unleashing a sword strike. "Heh, do you dare take another sword strike from me?" The first Heavenly Executioner chuckled. He then raised his hand and activated his Emperor's Qi. Daoist patterns intertwined wildly in the void, and the iron sword in his hand let out a crisp sword hum. With a slash of the sword, a beam of sword light instantly cut through the void and swept towards the 7 gods with a tyrannical aura of destruction. Not good. Shield of Gluttony. The god of gluttony took a step forward and took out a huge black iron shield. There was a bloody mouth carved on the iron shield, but when the sword chi collided with the iron shield, the energy was continuously devoured by the shield. This was the god of gluttony's divine weapon. Unfortunately, the power of this sword strike was too terrifying. After absorbing more than half of the sword chi, the divine weapon began to crack. What? The god of gluttony's pupils shrank. With a loud bang, the divine weapon shield shattered, and the terrifying sword chi that poured out rushed out. The god of gluttony bore the brunt of the attack and died on the spot. The other 6 gods resisted with all their might and barely managed to block the remaining sword chi. They then looked at the first heavenly executioner with lingering fear. You're indeed the first heavenly executioner. You're so badly injured, but you can still forcefully exert such power. How terrifying. It's a pity that you've still lost this battle. The god of pride sneered as he looked at the first heavenly executioner, whose aura was rapidly weakening and whose flame of life was like a candle in the wind. My king, we're useless. We've let you down. The first heavenly executioner murmured as he looked at the sky. The injuries in his body were rapidly devouring his life force, and he was no longer able to fight. The people of Black Heaven sect also noticed this. The hope that they had painstakingly birthed was replaced by despair. If the sect leader was here, he would definitely have a way. Elder Ruyan murmured. Lan Yu, Divine Phoenix Lil Red, and the others straightened their bodies and looked at the gods. They did not back down at all and were ready to fight to the death. The god of pride saw this and scoffed. A bunch of ant-like humans. Do you really think you can go against the gods? As he said that, he slammed his palm onto the barrier that the Earth Guardians had constructed. The barrier shattered with a loud bang. The thick Earth Guardians were sent flying. Then, an extremely terrifying divine power burst out from the god of pride and shrouded the people of Black Heaven sect. The powerful divine power pressed down on them like 100,000 mountains, causing their bodies to weaken and they could not help but fall to the ground. All of you are only fit to crawl on the ground and wait for death. The god of pride said calmly. Suddenly, his eyes narrowed. There were still a few figures standing proudly at the scene. Their unyielding silhouettes were like towering mountains that could support the heavens and the earth. They were Lan Yu, Lil Red, Murong Xian, Gu Linglong, and the others. Oh, you're still trying to resist? Get down. The god of pride snorted coldly and increased his aura once again. Murong Xian's knees immediately weakened, and he could not help but fall to the ground. In the end, he growled and retrieved a long spear from the ground. Using the spear as a base, he stabbed the tip of the spear into his shoulder and held it against his body. *T, I'm going to stand here no matter what. Ignorant humans, you're asking for death. Beside the god of pride, the other gods could not help but look grim and were about to activate their auras as well. However, at that moment, a sword's hum suddenly rang out and spread throughout the entire Black Heaven sect. That vast divine power aura was instantly swept away. Chapter 806. The crisp sound of a sword rang out and echoed throughout the Black Heaven sect. The boundless divine aura was instantly swept away. This sound, could it be? Lan Yu, Murong Xian, and the others turned towards the direction of the Longevity Hall excitedly. There was only one sword in the Longevity Hall, the Descendant Self-Sword. What's with that sword cry? It can break through the divine aura. There's a Daoist weapon in this hall. Judging from its aura, it's not an ordinary Daoist weapon. There's such a treasure in this sect? The deities looked towards the direction of the Longevity Hall in shock. Inside the Longevity Hall, A white jade-like sword was trembling on the shelf. It had been 3 years. It had been 3 whole years. It finally sensed that familiar aura. The Descendant Self-Sword could not contain its excitement. It flew out of the longevity hall and hovered in the air, waiting for someone to come. The body of the sword was jade-like and had Daoist markings on it. The sword chi was naturally bright and dazzling. It really is the Descendant Self-Sword. Lan Yu and the others were even more excited. What a great human Daoist weapon! When a god saw this Dao artifact, he couldn't help but fly up and try to grab Kuan Wu. "Don't touch it with your filthy hands." A cold voice was heard. The deity who tried to attack was instantly frozen in mid-air. An invisible force then crushed him into a cloud of blood mist. Everyone's eyes narrowed as they looked towards the source of the voice. They saw a man dressed in white with waist-length black hair. He was so handsome that he looked like a celestial being. He stepped on the air and looked at the surrounding deities as if they were nothing. He walked straight towards the Descendant Self-Sword. "Long time no see, my good friend." Chu Kuangren slowly reached out and grabbed the hilt of the Descendant Self-Sword. Suddenly, the sword let out a high-pitched cry that echoed through the clouds. The majestic sword aura swept out in all directions like a tidal wave, covering millions of kilometers. All the swords at the scene trembled as if they were welcoming the King of Swords. "You look excited. I wonder how much stronger you've become after your reforging." Chu Kuangren stroked the blade with his finger and pointed it at the deities. "Why don't I use this deity to test my strength?" "Chu Kuangren, you've finally appeared. Now, the gods are here. You and the Black Heaven sect will all die." The moment Demon Emperor Pride saw Chu Kuangren, he could not help but feel a surge of hatred in his heart. He took a step forward and said loudly. Chu Kuangren deflected the tip of his blade. A wisp of sword energy flew out. Demon Emperor Pride didn't even have time to react before he was sliced in half. What a fast sword chi! Pride God and the others couldn't help but narrow their eyes. That sword was so fast that they didn't even have time to save Demon Emperor Pride. "Fellow Chu, he's actually not dead." The Heaven Executioners were also confused. It wasn't just them. Far away in the outer realm, the heavenly yellow Daoist and the others had also sensed Chu Kuangren's aura, and they were all shocked. "Chu Kuangren, why isn't he dead? How could this be?" The mysterious Yellow Path Master's face was extremely gloomy. Variable. Chu Kuangren's appearance at this time was undoubtedly a variable. Damn it, damn it! How could this fellow be so lucky? So many Dao Lords had died in the Battle of the Blood God Mountain, so why was he still alive? In the Black Heaven sect. Chu Kuangren's sudden appearance made the deities' expressions turn grim. This person is the Black Heaven Divine sect's true Black God. Humph, this is the person who treated us as false deities. Back then, the myriad deity sect was stopped from spreading their faith to us by this person. We must not let this person live. Kill. The deities attacked. Chu Kuangren's figure suddenly disappeared and reappeared in front of a deity. He raised his hand and slashed out with his sword. That deity did not have the slightest resistance and was instantly torn in half by the Descendant Self-Sword. Amidst the blood mist, Chu Kuangren moved again. His figure was like a ghost, constantly changing among the deities. All they could see were rays of sword rays flashing one after another. Chu Kuangren's sword was very elegant, and it was neither fast nor slow. However, the deities had no way to avoid it. Every time the sword ray flashed, a deity's life would be taken away. In just a few breaths' time, dozens of gods were chopped like vegetables. Some were beheaded, while others were chopped at the waist. The deities could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. Too weak. Too weak. I can't even kill a pig or a dog so easily. Are there no stronger deities for me to test my sword skills on? Chu Kuangren's voice rang out. The deities were so angry that their faces turned green. Killing a pig or a dog is not that easy. Does that not mean that they are worse than a pig or a dog? How dare you? The crocodile deity wielded an axe and swung it at Chu Kuangren. The powerful axe strike was enough to split an ocean apart. Chu Kuangren raised his sword to block the attack. With a clang, the sword and axe collided, sparks flew, and a sword ray flashed across the void. Chu Kuangren flashed past the crocodile deity and saw the axe in its hand break into two. Then, the crocodile's head fell to the ground with a bang, kicking up a cloud of dust and divine blood. All the gods sucked in a breath of cold air, their gazes filled with shock. A higher deity was killed with a single sword attack. How terrifying was this person's strength? The heavenly executioners knew how strong Chu Kuangren was. He was a person who could kill the Blood Tribe Blood King, who was also a Dao Lord. Killing a few higher deities was like child's play to him. However, they were still shocked. They could tell that Chu Kuangren did not use any emperor's qi or any other energy at all. Instead, he was like a mortal, wielding a sword and using all kinds of sword techniques to kill the deities. Just as Chu Kuangren said, he was testing his sword. He was using the deities to test the sharpness of the descendant self-sword. Even if he doesn't use the emperor's qi, he can casually kill gods with just a Daoist weapon. Just how terrifying is his physical strength and understanding of swordsmanship? 7 executioners could not help but gulp and say, "You can easily break a higher deity weapon. Descendant self, you've grown a lot stronger." Chu Kuangren looked at the descendant self sword in his hand and chuckled. The descendant self sword trembled slightly as if it was proud of itself. "Next, let's try my sword qi," Chu Kuangren said. The emperor's qi within his body surged as he raised his sword and swung it. Sword qi slashed across the sky, carrying with it a storm that could annihilate everything. Dozens of deities were killed on the spot. Dao Lord. He's definitely a Dao Lord. Pride deity's expression changed. He exchanged glances with envy, avarice, and the other deities beside him. Then, without hesitation, he turned around and fled. "Where do you think you're going?" Chu Kuangren said indifferently. The emperor's qi and Daoist patterns intertwined, and the mini-world instantly shrouded the entire place. All the deities felt a terrifying and boundless pressure shrouding them, and they were all pressed to the ground. Chu Kuangren's expression was as cold as ice. "In front of me, all of you can only lie on the ground and wait for your deaths. Dream on. This kind of pressure. How is this possible?" Pride deity could not believe it. Even a lord deity would not be this terrifying. This mini-world. The first heavenly executioner looked at the Daoist patterns in the void and could not help but feel an inexplicable sense of familiarity. What happened next shocked him even more. With a single thought, 10,000 blades created disaster. Chu Kuangren channeled his thoughts and countless spiritual qi converged into the blades. The heavenly executioner's expressions changed when the blades converged. The Dao Lords who were far away were also dumbfounded. Chapter 807. With a single thought, 10,000 swords create an army disaster. Tens of thousands of spiritual qi converged into soldiers. Countless swords soared into the sky and locked onto all the deities present. When the deities saw this scene, their eyes were filled with unprecedented fear. "It's him, it's him. He's back." In the long history of the deities, they had dominated everything and were never afraid of anyone. However, one person had given them the greatest humiliation. The human ruler. This is the human ruler's cultivation technique. Pride deity was so scared that his face turned pale. In the past, when the human ruler single-handedly killed his way up to the godly mountain, he had taken a look at him from afar. That person's figure had always been engraved in his heart, becoming a nightmare that he could never forget. Now, that figure was slowly overlapping with the Chu Kuangren before him. In the outer realm, the Dao Lords were all confused. What was going on? What did they just see? It's the king's mystery. That's the king's mystery. How did Chu Kuangren get it? The crowd was puzzled. The mystery was the ultimate interpretation of one's own Dao. Everyone had their own unique mystery that could not be passed on to others. However, Chu Kuangren had used the human ruler's mystery. That had broken their preconceptions. Could he be the king? That absurd thought suddenly popped up in everyone's mind. Then, they quickly shook their heads in denial. It was impossible. The king was dead, and he had been dead for a long time. However, they could not help but look at Chu Kuangren with anticipation. If he really was the king, if the king could really return, how great would that be? In the Black Heaven sect. With a single thought, Chu Kuangren created an army disaster. With a single thought, tens of thousands of swords whistled towards the deities. Regardless of whether it was a lower god or a higher god, under this power, none of them had any ability to fight back. They were smashed to pieces on the spot. After killing the deities, Chu Kuangren looked up into the sky. His gaze seemed to penetrate through layers of obstacles and reached the outer realm. In the outer realm, the heavenly yellow Dao Lord could not help but shiver when he was stared at by that gaze. At that moment, he felt like he was being stared at by the king. Chu Kuangren, who the hell are you? The heavenly yellow Dao Lord gritted his teeth. He now understood that in order to become a king, the Dao Lord was not an obstacle, neither was the heavenly executioner, only Chu Kuangren was the biggest obstacle standing in his way. If Chu Kuangren did not die, he would not be able to claim the throne. In the Black Heaven sect, Chu Kuangren retracted his gaze and murmured, "He's just a clown. I'll deal with him when the time comes." For now, it was better to reorganize the situation on Firmament Star. After killing the gods, he arrived in front of the first heavenly executioner. He frowned slightly when he noticed that the latter could no longer suppress his injuries. He raised his hand and gathered the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, casting the spring breeze rain technique. An endless stream of life force surged into the other party's body, rapidly healing his injuries. However, the other party's injuries were too severe. Even the powerful effects of the spring breeze and rain art could not completely heal him. Water vapor, gather. Chu Kuangren gathered the water chi from the heavens and earth and condensed them into needles. With his peerless medical skills, he pierced the water needles into the first heavenly executioner's body. Soon enough, the man's injuries were healed. The first heavenly executioner was astonished. His injuries were already beyond saving, and he wouldn't be able to live for long. However, Chu Kuangren managed to hang on to his last breath of life force. Although he was still gravely injured, he managed to survive. Green shirt, you've made quite a mess of yourself. Just as the first heavenly executioner was shocked by Chu Kuangren's medical skills, Chu Kuangren's cold voice rang out. That familiar tone instantly brought him back to ancient times. Green shirt, it had been a long time since he last heard that name. Ever since the king left, he had abandoned the title of Green Shirt and walked the world as the first heavenly executioner. He heard that name again. He stared at Chu Kuangren with reddened eyes. That familiar tone, that same profound Tao. Welcome back, king. Although he did not have any direct evidence, Green Shirt had a feeling that the person in front of him was the king that he had spent so many years with. King, it really is the king. The king is back. The other heavenly executioners were also extremely excited. Chu Kuangren glanced at them. After merging with the remnant soul energy of the earth soul and human soul, he had also obtained those 10,000 years of memories. These people were all his former personal guards. Among them, the first heavenly executioner, Green Shirt, had been by his side since before he became a king. I'm back. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. Then, he looked at the people of the Black Heaven sect and appeared in front of them in a flash. He cast the spring breeze healing technique and healed everyone's injuries. Brother. The godly phoenix Lil Red was the most excited. She immediately rushed up and hugged Chu Kuangren like a koala bear. Lil Red, you've grown quite a bit. Chu Kuangren patted Lil Red's head and chuckled. Then, he looked at Lan Yu, Elder Ruyan, Gu Linglong, Murong Xian, and the others and smiled. Everyone, it's been a while. Welcome back, sect leader. Elder Ruyan smiled and bowed in respect. Welcome back, sect leader. Welcome back, sect leader. The people of the Black Heaven sect were extremely excited and bowed as well. The haze caused by the deity's arrival was instantly swept away with Chu Kuangren's arrival. That was because their faith had returned. Inside the Longevity Hall, Chu Kuangren, Elder Ruyan, and the others gathered in the hall. They were cleaning up the aftermath of the battle. Although Chu Kuangren returned in time, coupled with the Heavenly Executioner and the 5 Affinities Shadow Army's resistance, the Black Heaven sect did not suffer many casualties. There were still a few elders and disciples who lost their lives in the battle. However, now was not the time to be sad. This battle was just the beginning. There was not even a single Lord God. The deity's big move was yet to come. However, Chu Kuangren was not worried about this. Since he was back, he would not allow any more casualties. Whether it was the deities or the heavenly yellow Daoist master, he could shoulder all of them. By the way, Linglong, where have you been? Chu Kuangren asked curiously. Gu Linglong explained patiently. It turned out that when the heavenly Tao was revived, some of the strong cultivators in the firmament star who had been in hibernation had awakened one after another, and one of them was the heavenly Honorable Dark. This person also had a mysterious underworld Daoist physique. Just like the heavenly executioner, this person was also severely injured during the Battle of Defiance Gods. After many years of hibernation, his injuries did not improve. Sensing that his end was near, he wanted to find a successor and coincidentally met Gu Linglong in the Royal Azure Dynasty. Gu Linglong also had a mysterious underworld Daoist physique, so she brought her along and used a secret technique to pass on her cultivation. Because of that, Gu Linglong quickly broke through and even became an emperor. Not long ago, that heavenly Honorable Dark had reached his end and passed away. Only then did Gu Linglong return to the firmament star from the 9 heavens. Chu Kuangren could not help but sigh after hearing that. The heavenly executioners, in particular, were even more emotional. Like that heavenly Honorable Dark, they were also injured during the Battle of Defiance Gods and had yet to recover. At that thought, their hatred towards the deities deepened. The deities have caused too much damage to the human race. I will never forgive them, let alone work with them. The heavenly yellow Daoist master's actions have tarnished the reputation of the human race, Green Robe said coldly and revealed the heavenly yellow Daoist master's intention to work with the deities. Chu Kuangren nodded slightly. I've heard about this from Luo Shui. I'll take care of it. Don't worry. Chapter 808. Somewhere in the void of Firmament Star. There was a towering divine mountain here, and at the peak of the divine mountain, there was a golden seal. The seal had runes flowing around it, and it shone with a myriad of lights, enveloping the entire divine mountain. It was the human ruler seal. The surging divine power in the divine mountain was sealed by the man ruler seal. Even the god lords in the divine mountain could not come out. This was because the human ruler seal was not only a condensation of human Tao luck, but it was also filled with the power of the heavenly Tao. It was known as the strongest Tao weapon in Firmament Star. Outside the divine mountain, a person slowly walked in. It was an imposing man in a black robe. He looked at the man ruler seal on the divine mountain with a hint of envy in his eyes. The human ruler's seal is extremely powerful. It will continue to grow stronger as the human race's luck increases. It can be said to be the most mysterious weapon in history. If it wasn't for Tsang, the person who became the leader of the human race back then should have been me. This item should also belong to me. Xianxia murmured. The memory of being defeated by Tsang surfaced in his mind. He suppressed his emotions. Unfortunately, Tsang, you died too early. Otherwise, with my current strength, I would have been able to defeat you and wash away my shame. He glanced at the man-ruler seal. Then, he took out a white rune with Dao patterns intertwining inside and his psyche power circulating within it. This was one of the runes left behind by the human king. In the past, the human king could be said to be an all-rounder. He was proficient in formations, alchemy, artifact forging, and even runes. In fact, he was the one who had created all of these methods, and then popularized them throughout the human race. It was precisely because of these means that the human race could become strong enough to rival the gods who had hundreds of thousands of years of history in a short period of 10,000 years. And because of this, Tsang was known as the greatest king of the human race. This is one of the earliest runes Tsang created when he created the Tao of Runes. It contains his power. Hopefully, it can trigger a reaction from the human ruler seal. Slashing Star sent the rune in his hand out. The runes exploded in the air, and countless rays of golden light flowed. The Tao patterns interweaved and turned into thousands of weapons that blasted towards the human ruler seal. The man-ruler seal sensed a familiar energy fluctuation, and its resistance was naturally weakened, allowing it to withstand this attack. After the explosion, the entire divine mountain shook violently. The myriad of lights swayed. Xianxia seized the opportunity. A large golden sword appeared in his hand. With a furious roar, he combined his chi refinement and divine power to the extreme. Die! The golden sword chi swept out along with the storm. The seal formed by the human ruler seal was broken. In an instant, the divine power aura contained in the sacred mountain swept out in a frenzy, charging at the entire space. The void shattered and the sacred mountain reappeared in the firmament star. Countless experts sensed it. Some of the sealed sovereigns could sense the aura of the divine mountain as well. Ha ha ha, the divine mountain has reappeared. The divine masters are no longer bound, and the sacred mountain has reappeared. The seal set by the human race won't be able to suppress us for much longer. Human race, just you wait. The divine power aura of the divine mountain spread out, and some of the chief gods who were closer to it felt their divine power increase. They had actually broken the seal in one go. The divine master sat on the throne in the palace. After sensing that the seal of the human monarch seal had been broken, he slowly stood up and looked at Xianxia, who was at the foot of the mountain. The aura of a mix of human and divine. You are the son of King Kong. The divine master still had some impression of this human monarch's son. He was surprised when he sensed his opponent's power. You're very strong, not much weaker than Tsang back then. Xianxia said, Tsang has been dead for many years. Times are different now. Divine Master, please cooperate with us. Cooperation? Interesting. A playful smile appeared on the Divine Master's face. Far away. Inside the Black Heaven sect's boundary. Chu Kuangren had also sensed the aura of the sacred mountain. The seal of the human ruler seal has been broken. These deities are more capable than I thought. There's no hurry. Let's wait a little longer. He was waiting for an opportunity. It would be too troublesome to find them one by one. What he wanted was, to capture them all at once. Let's do the lucky draw first. Chu Kuangren murmured. He opened the fantasy roulette and began the lucky draw. Congratulations, host. You've obtained the godly technique, Honorable Emperor's Sword Art. The godly technique, Honorable Emperor's Sword Art. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. He immediately retrieved the cultivation technique. It was a powerful sword technique. Although it was not as profound as the Immortal Star Physique or the 9 Transformation 3 Primordial Soul Refinement Technique, however, it was an offensive immortal technique. An immortal technique that was more powerful than the illusory 7 Emotions art. It seems that God-tiered techniques correspond to the immortal level. However, God-tiered techniques differ in strength. Although the Honorable Emperor's sword art is powerful, its growth potential is far inferior to the Immortal Star Physique and the 9 Transformation 3 Primordial Soul Refinement Technique. However, it's still very useful to me at this stage. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. He spent the rest of his time learning this immortal technique. While he was in closed-door meditation, the over-gods broke their seals one by one and gathered at the sacred mountain as if they were preparing for something. On this day, Chu Kuangren suddenly sensed something. Someone is destroying the sealing sword formation that I've left in the Emperor's path. In the past, he had left a sealing sword formation in the black soil where the Burial Emperor's coffin was located, so that the Burial Emperor's coffin could no longer come out to harm the people. However, someone was destroying the sword formation now. With my current strength, it's not difficult to save the Chaos Daoist Master. I might as well settle this matter today. Chu Kuangren murmured. He cast the spatial conveyor technique and disappeared on the spot. The Emperor's path, black soil. Recently, with the help of the oceanic deity and the other deities, he had finally broken out of his seal and arrived at the black soil to retrieve his divine weapon, the Burial Emperor's coffin. However, he realized that there was a sword formation around the Burial Emperor's coffin. This must be a sword formation set up by Chu Kuangren. That D***mned human has disgraced me time and time again. I must find a chance to skin him alive. The underworld god snorted coldly and said. Then, he looked at the black soil in front of him. Now, he decided to deal with the Chaos Daoist Master first. The Chaos Daoist Master's strength among the humans is terrifying. If he had not exhausted himself chasing after the deities back then, I wouldn't have sealed him into the Burial Emperor's coffin so easily. This time, I must get rid of this threat once and for all. The underworld deity thought to himself as his divine power erupted. Under the impact of the divine power, the sealing sword formation was instantly broken. The Burial Emperor's coffin broke out of the ground. The pitch-black coffin trembled as it sensed the arrival of its master. The underworld deity raised his hand and caressed the black coffin, injecting his divine power into it in an attempt to refine the Chaos Daoist Master inside. Die. However, at that moment, a sword chi pierced through the air and landed on the Burial Emperor's coffin. With a boom, the Burial Emperor's coffin was sent flying. Who's there? The underworld deity's expression changed slightly as he looked into the distance. He saw a young man walking in the air. His white robes were untainted by even a speck of dust, and a gorgeous white jade longsword hung on his waist. It's you, Chu Kuangren. The underworld deity smiled when he saw who it was. I was just about to look for you. I didn't expect you to come knocking on my door. Now that my true body has broken the seal, let's see how you're going to fight me. A powerful surge of divine power erupted from the underworld deity's body. The entire Emperor's path trembled violently. Countless living beings prostrated themselves on the ground. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren stood in the air with a calm expression. I killed you once back then, and now you're back to clamoring in front of me after being resurrected. You really don't learn from your mistakes. Oh well, it's not that hard to kill you again. You're tuning in to the UnparalleledSwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.